What's up, everybody? How are you? This is Real Talk Chronicles. We are back. We've been away. Um, I hope everybody has had a wonderful weekend. Uh, there's some things. The mayoral race, the debate is on tonight, too. I hope if you're not listening to us, you're listening to that. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Happy pre-Father's Day for all those that are fathers. Happy Father's Day to you, Kevin.
Oh, thank
I
you.
I there's so much to talk about. Crime is still up in arms in New York City. What are we going to do about that? How do we stop that? The next mayor, what is he going to do? You know, who are you voting for? Who are you thinking about voting for? Those are important questions that we all have. Um, Kevin and I have some videos and stuff like out there that we will show you tonight. We hope that we still can find. I had a discussion yesterday in regards to uh, the next mayor, and somebody was talking about um, they are trying. They want the next. They talked about defunding, and I was like, listen. It's not always about defunding. We can't keep talking about defunding. Let's stop that. So also coming in us with tonight, we got Chuck Richards. What's up, Chuck? How are you, brother?
What's going on, brothers? How you guys doing?
Everything is beautiful,
Good
man.
evening, Chuck.
Good, brother. How are you, Kev? Bill? How's everybody?
Everything is great, man. We was having a discussion. I was just talking about the new mayor, the mayoral race coming up. I've got to get myself situated here. The mayoral race is coming up. Eric Adams is leading. People are talking about defunding, still talking about defunding. We need to get rid of that conversation. It's not about defunding. It's about a culture. I was having a discussion with Pastor Kevin Graves. He might join us tonight just because he can. He's part of the Real Talk family. And we were just talking about something in regards to Florida not wanting to have conversations in lieu of slavery and things of that magnitude. And I want to equate that to law enforcement. Uh, I put up, there was something about, I put up a post about George Floyd. And the first thing former officer said to me was that he shouldn't be considered a hero. And my conversation to them was, well, who considers him a hero? The whole thing that is happening is still the ideology of the culture of the mentality of law enforcement. That has to change. Until that changes, we will still have the same problems that arise to this day. We have some videos of some officers uh, doing their job, but then abusing their force. Um, just to give you a point. Well, first, happy Juneteenth to you, Chuck, and happy pre-Father's Day to you.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate
so
that.
just give me your take, Chuck, and then I'll bring you and Kevin on it. What do you think when you hear people keep talking about defunding? And if you were a mayor for a day, what what would be the things that you would try to implement if you were mayor, and when it comes to regards to law enforcement?
Well, I think across the board, there's a different philosophy and a different ideology in regards to the funding. Like if you go randomly from person to person, everyone has their different views of what defunding would mean. Um, I understand if you're saying that there's too much money being put into police departments for the purposes of making them into like military fortresses and putting out tanks and and things of that nature. All right, I can understand that, but they don't understand that a great deal of the money that was put forward, and while the police department got bolstered in regards to now going into having special weapons or getting these various bells and whistles and toys was direct response after 9/11. I mean, every police department, every place around the country, right? I mean, unfortunately, based on our arrogance, we always thought as a country, you know, we're never going to be the ones that no one would ever think about doing that to. I mean, you have Israel who's been dealing with these particular type of attacks. That's been a part of their culture. It's their life. They've been prepared for all types of and any type of terrorist attack. And the reason that most of the police departments both got bolstered and they end up coming out with different military type kind of apparatus and instruments and all types of equipment was in response to 9/11, so that each police department would be better suited to deal with any type of terrorist attack. So it wasn't with the ideology that it was being done so for the purposes of addressing the community and to put fear into the community. It was to put fear and to put security into the community, knowing that when something hit the fan, we were able to respond to it. So when they say defunding, I mean, I would have to sit down with those who are making these comments and statements. Okay, what is your interpretation of wanting to defund? And then from there, I guess as me being the mayor for the day, putting together a panel of people, sitting down collectively with the community, and then getting different philosophies and I guess schools of thought. That's probably the direction I would go in terms of what would be defunded or what would be changed, if anything, for that matter. So I can't give you a clear-cut answer in regards to what I would do, but it would definitely be a joint effort between the police department, myself, and the community, and to get a better understanding of where they're coming from, so that maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle. But once again, the overall issue in terms of militarizing police departments, it wasn't, and in fact, it was supposed to be for the purposes of frightening the community. It was supposed to make them feel more secure if there had ever been a large-scale 9/11 attack or active shooters. You got people now going into schools, going into all types of businesses and just shooting up the place. And that's really what the overall philosophy behind these various bolstering of the equipment was supposed to be stemmed from.
At least that's very important. And I believe the
Kev?
question that you asked is significant.
Hey, well, first, good evening, everybody.
All right.
Happy Juneteenth. Happy Father's Day upcoming this
Same
weekend.
to you too, brother.
Happy anything else you celebrate. Enjoy. This nice weather, early summer it feels. Today was beautiful. Defunding the police. I'll go with what is your actual goal, right? And I think most people's goal is they want to be safe and respected, right? And they want a police department that protects them and treats them properly and, is involved in helping the community. I don't know where defunding the police will accomplish that. That defunding, if you take money away from police departments, the first thing they got to remove is training. The second thing is the amount of officers, right? Like those are two things, but we need to talk about doing those different. And we've talked about this a lot on this show about we need to train cops differently. We need to have cops, Bill's always been a big proponent of cops need to know how to fight. They got to know how to use their hands. So that's one of those things. But if I was in charge today, and the first thing I would do, because there are a lot, it would be creating a police commissioners council with members of the community, right? First off, I think the biggest problem we have is the fight. It's us versus them, two sides of this, and somebody's got to start putting it together. So what I mean by a police commissioners council is the police commissioner has to identify members of, in New York City, this is tough because we're a big city, but you have to pick members of the community who are leaders. They could be religious leaders, they could be political leaders, they can just be very, well-known, outspoken community leaders. Bring them in, talk with them. I would say initially, maybe once a week, but in the long run, probably just once a month. But when an incident happens, when there is a shooting of in question or an arrest in question, bring that group in and give them the inside look. Right? We can't always, as law enforcement agencies, show everything. We can't immediately release the videos, or we can't release certain things because there are rules. There are criminal procedural rules that we have to follow, and prosecutors' offices will stop them at times. But we can bring in that team who will already be known and trusted and share with them the inside story of what's being investigated, how it's going, where we're going. So it's not the police commissioner or the mayor getting on TV saying, we'll take care of this. It's members of the community who can go back and say, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt on this one. They're going to take care of it. There is an investigation. We've seen what it looks like. Be patient. And that's a much different message, going out to the world. In law enforcement, we kind of shy away from talking, and we want to circle the wagons. And we've seen this a lot with lots of police departments where they circle. But that's I think one step. Again, we've sat and we've talked about this several times over the weeks and months here. There are a lot of things that need to be done, and I think in the end, it's funding the police to make them what you want. You're muted.
I totally agree with both of you. I think it's really a shame that people think that the funding of police will make things better. It really won't. I think it's about the culture. I will always say that. I think officers need to, it's almost like parenting. It's almost like, if your child acts a certain way, we're old school. We were all brought up a certain way. No matter what our ethnicity is, we still were brought up with certain kind of values. And I think that has to be instilled in the officers. And I always say, like I said, I was talking to Pastor Graves today, and we were talking about how they don't want to talk about the past in Florida. They don't want to bring it up in school about slavery, stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing. I think officers need to understand how they were taught from maybe second or third generational parents. Maybe, how do we change that culture? I think it's probably the biggest task. It's almost like saying if we have a world of just everybody's mixed babies and no more race, you know what I'm saying? Maybe everybody will be treated fair then. But until then, that is a problem right now that we're going to we have. Yeah, let's go to some of the videos, whatever videos you want to pull up first, and then we can discuss that and watch that. I know I YouTube you some stuff. You're muted, Kev. You're muted.
Did you have one in particular you were looking for? I have not set them up yet. So
no, whichever one you want to plot first. I'll narrate it or discuss it when you see it.
Just give me another moment.
Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles while Kevin does that. Just to let you know, next week I'll be with Allison Williams and Lenny Green of WBLS. We'll be in, and we'll be talking a little different. We'll talk about relationships, dating as an older person. Is it harder? Is it tougher? Is it easier? Does everybody want to be in a relationship or not? Is it hard for us to break our habits and stuff like that? People are structured already at a certain age, and we at 20 years old, it's hard to change somebody. So dating in your 50s or 40s, or is it really hard to date? And of course, we'll be back here next Wednesday, of course, with Kevin and Chuck. And following that, we'll have Pastor Graves. So everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. If you're watching from YouTube, please subscribe to it and like it. I know the summer, the world is opening up. A lot of people will probably be watching it in the second, later on, as they say, the tape delay or the rerun. But, the support is still appreciated. We are still trying to give you the best content we can do while we're here. So go ahead, Kev, if you have something.
All right. Let's go to this incident. Give me one sec. share screen. Hit my audio button. I figure we might as well start off with the toughest one. Good? Got volume?
Got it. Mhm.
I'm not your hand. I can tell you what you arrested me. Give me your hand. Take that knee. Give me your
So you're on mute, Bill.
If you want to play it again if you have to. But Kevin, you go first and give me your take on the situation. Then Chuck, I'll let you go, and then I'll say what I saw and what I felt.
So I want to preface it. I want to go into our academy training because it's been for me almost 28 years. Chuck, it's been a few, a little bit longer. On levels we were taught, because I always thought we were taught some strange things. Preface that with saying the kneeing's not necessary, right? Like, you got him on the floor, there's 4 people, you can get that arm twisted. Is it work? Is it hard? Yeah. But you'll get that arm twisted and get it back there eventually. Fine. When the use of force, and maybe I remember this wrong, this is why I'm asking you guys, was, after verbal, it's that, soft tissue I can strike, right? Your thighs, your arms, kind of thing, right? And that was, I thought it was taught to me like for refusing to comply, right? Like, if I don't have to wrestle with you, I can throw that strike to your leg. Am I wrong about that? Was that how we were taught? It's been many years. This is why I'm
No. No, you're right. You're right in regards to that. Yes.
That we were trained, for the, we can take it to that strike to the thigh.
Right. I remember that. But this overall, I don't recall ever being trained where I can knee someone. That I don't remember.
When they taught us with the strike to the
anything.
thigh, they taught us with that with the stick, which
Right,
is,
but it wasn't,
you know, I don't know if I'd rather be. I think I'd rather be
Knee
kneed
or
in my
rather-
thigh or hit with someone's stick. You know.
Okay.
So
Well, let me just interject real quick, fellas. I think I didn't have any problems with them tactically the way they at first was trying to hold back the crowd. I think we've been taught, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a time for both of us, Kevin and Chuck, exactly, especially academy training, that if he was kneeing him and he was standing up, I get that to get him down.
yeah.
The fact that he's down and you have enough members, so you're kneeing him in his ribs and in his and things of that magnitude, is totally unnecessary. I think officers. There was another part when they wanted to take somebody down, I guess another individual in the crowd, and initially what the officer tried to do is try to put him in a headlock, but it's obviously you can see we're always going to go back to what's comfortable, our comfort zone. The sad thing about that is that to affect a to try to implement a non-effective takedown, it looks like he tried to choke him. You understand what I'm saying? And not that maybe that's his intention, but it just looked that way because you see he let up. But like this guy, I think I sent you another clip on this too. This guy, when they initially tried to arrest him, I think there was something about this was all over vaporing. I think this was all over vaporing.
Smoking. Yep, vaping.
Yeah, smoking. And when they initially went to put him in handcuffs, he had his hands up. I think that was missing in this clip. So you see how certain things just escalate. I'm not here to tell somebody if you felt disrespected not to arrest or issue a summons. Who am I to tell you how your emotions go when we do this job? Because I'm sure we've all been goaded before and hooked. So that's the thing I was talking about right there, where he tried to.
I can't say he tried to choke him there, Bill. I can't.
No, I didn't say.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say he tried to choke him. I said it looks if you scroll back a little, see right here, he tries
right there.
He takes it right off immediately. I think that's fine for a take down.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying if you scroll back just a little bit when before his initial interaction, right here, you see he's trying. Go back a little further.
Yeah, I got you. I see it.
No, I'm trying to say from another eye, a civilian eye. I agree. I don't think it was a chokehold, but from a civilian eye, if you don't know how to implement a move, it would be considered like he's trying to choke him. But we know it's a headlock. He's trying to take him to the ground. See right there? That's what I'm trying to say. Then
and he quickly released it. Like I'm going to go with that. That was me or you, Bill, because we're used to doing the headlock. And Chuck, I'm sure you've done them too. We've all done the headlock to take somebody down, but in this new era, you can't. So it was kind of like you grab the headlock and you're like, oh, nope. And then you try to pull in a different direction. So what I want to go back to with that first one, right? We agree that if he was standing, Bill, the kneeing was fine, right? You're trying to get him down and you throw the knees in.
Well, yeah. Well, because it would be knees to thigh. So
yeah,
I right. And we've been taught with the ass to hit on the leg to mobilize and take down. So we all understand that's part of the training. But right now, if you finally can get to that part where this guy is being held down by three other. Oh, there he is, right here.
Yeah.
Like what you're kneeing his ribs. What are you kneeing his ribs for?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a cowboy. There's always wants to be a gunslinger in a group. You know what I'm saying? I control the narrative. This guy down. You didn't have to. I
don't think we do well, Bill, with training in this. Like we trained and we all agreed that like it was, yes, we can take that asp and whack somebody's thighs, which personally I never did, right? I've never hit anybody with a stick or an asp. It wasn't my thing. I didn't like using it. I don't know if we've trained and if we train in all these different scenarios, right? Like I don't think in our manual, this would have been wrong.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right? I think they're fine but it doesn't mean we can't be better. Right? Like, it goes into that thing of, and we've talked about a bunch of times, just because you legally can shoot doesn't mean you should shoot. Just because I can legally throw that knee at you doesn't mean I should or I need to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there are two ways of looking at it with that, why you shouldn't. One, again, there's 4 guys here and there's plenty of more officers around, right? There's a lot of officers. He's on the floor. You're going to get those hands eventually. It's going to take work, but you're going to get them. You're protected because there's other officers there, so you have a little more time. But what we never teach is perception. And those knees rile the crowd more. So while the knees might be departmentally okay, it may not be great judgment because you're now getting people angrier because they're seeing that. Nobody likes to see when we hit. Right. Like, there has never been an incident where you swing your stick and hit somebody, you throw a punch at somebody, you use violence, that the crowd is going to calm it down a little bit more. It is always going to escalate. And I don't think we teach that. I had no issue if this guy was, squirming, if he had his hands in front of him where I can't see what his hands are doing, right? Like, I'm into more violence against him if his hands are underneath him where I can't see because I don't know what he's going for. But, I think there's something we're missing in our teaching, where we don't teach enough scenarios, and we don't, one of the things when Bill and I and others are talking about, like, is bringing in virtual reality training to cops. So you can take these incidents and break them apart, and at a precinct level, kind of run them through new scenarios all the time. Keep them thinking, keep them on their toes, train them more. We do so little, we're sitting here debating like what was taught to us in the academy. Theoretically, all of us could still be cops on the street, right? But what we were taught was decades ago, where I don't know if we're progressing it to the frontline officers. I don't know if we're giving them the right training and tools to think differently and to try different ways and to look at the scenarios that will happen to you.
Well, the one thing that I thought at one point, probably, I'm not sure how much of an impact that it had, but one particular year, I don't know if you guys remember, there actually used to be something they used to use up at the range called like the fax machine, right? It was like a fax machine. It was a simulation of various scenarios when it had to do with using deadly physical force, right? And you took the cops through that fax machine and you were able to feed it with different scenarios to see if and when you should and should not shoot. That same type of technology, I mean, it may have been somewhat, state of the art then, but it did in fact increase the overall knowledge, and it was a way of constantly refreshing these guys' abilities to understand that there's different variations, different scenarios, and when in fact they should or should not shoot. And that was a constant thing. Okay, so what happens? The police department decides to get rid of it. Why? I don't know. I don't know. They felt it was ineffective. It wasn't. I don't know what it is, but there needs to be something implemented that is almost similar to this place, something that's simulated, where in fact they go through certain scenarios, or let's say take some of the scenarios of some of the things that have happened across the country and put it into this machine, and then see exactly how officers are going to react. What do you think is the most liable, the most prudent action that should be taken at this particular point? And if it means having a dialogue or having 2 or 3 people go through it and be the guinea pig, and then you critiquing one another, understanding, okay, maybe that wasn't the most prudent decision. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. But to, like you said, the training aspect, I don't know where this cat right here learned that, Kung Fu move on the floor with the knee jam. I don't know what that's from. You know what I'm saying? But I know for a fact that it's not 1, it's not 2. You got 3 officers standing there. You're trying to tell me that the 3 of you can't find a way. Yeah, like you said, it's going to be a little hard. Yeah, we may have to put in a little work, but you're going to get his hands behind his back. But having to knee him 4 or 5 times in his rib cage, that's totally unnecessary.
And Chuck, that's what I was talking about, the virtual reality, right? Like the FATS machine or whatever it was called when we were there.
Yeah.
I used it once, right? That's how often I was trained on that machine, right? Because it was always broken. They didn't, like never. But virtual reality is now the goggles. It is inexpensive.
The Oculus and all this stuff. Yeah,
you could do this at precinct level. We have at precinct level, right? NYPD every day has training. Every single day. You did 20 minutes after roll call of training. We can expand that a little bit, and just a couple of times a week, bring the Oculus goggles out, run scenarios through. 2 or 3 officers are going through the scenarios. 7 or 8 are watching on the big screen. And you're right, Chuck. We sit and we critique and we help each other along, and we become better. We're not trained professionals.
I totally agree with both of you. I think the one thing with the police departments, we could talk about NYPD or we could talk about all over the world, whomever needs more training. Like you said, Kev, even if it's done after roll call, I mean, even if it's done once a month or once every 2 months, it just has to be more training on how to, like you said, critique each other, apprehend, subdue. I think sometimes you don't even have to make a move until you wait till you got enough people to make a move. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kev,
True.
You and I, or Chuck and I, or you and Chuck, you don't have to take down a guy like Mike Tyson by yourself. Listen, that's what we got the radio for. Central, keep them coming. 85, fourth wheel.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Right.
It's on to the break of dawn. Whatever you want to say. Listen.
And like we said, they had numbers here.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't most police departments across the country where cops are solo patrolling by themselves and friends aren't coming for 15 minutes, right? That's a different animal. This is what we're used to.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, for the most part, I don't have problems with what the other officers did. But it's so funny though. If you see, if a person wants to nitpick that video, you see the white couple doing the same thing that the black people were doing, but they go unscathed, untouched. And then, the young brothers, I don't know if they were his personal friends or not. They might be, of course, be a little bit more emotionally involved, but they're a little.
See, there he took the cop's bike.
Oh, well, that's a collar. I mean, if you want to.
So that's different than the couple taking the video. That the guy in the red hat took the bike.
I understand that, but not all of them.
No, not all of them. But we're missing lots of video. But understand that one was pretty clear. He took his bike. And
you didn't hear me say he shouldn't be arrested. I'm not talking about him. Yeah, I'm just. But he's not the one that got arrested though.
Yeah.
So he's the one that took the cop's bike, but he's not the one that got arrested. It's the heaviest.
And then that one pushed the cop. It was a light push, but it's still a push. And which one gets arrested?
Well, you're not pushing me either. Let's be abundantly clear. You put your hands on me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all bets is on. Right.
Well, that's what. So see, I don't know. This is the guy who gets eventually, arrested.
See, like old girl right there.
Yeah, but they're not.
No, I'm just saying. I understand. I'm saying they're complying. I'm not disputing that, but.
Yeah. I mean, look. I want to go back to the beginning of this.
I have.
Is it the same cop? I want to follow the cop with the knee.
Okay. If you can find him.
Okay, so it's this guy, right? Am I going too far already? No. Does he come in? No, I didn't go back far enough.
You can play it again, Kev, one more time so we can all get...
All right, so let's try to pay attention to where he goes afterwards. He's the big guy. Tattoos.
That's 4 times.
Yeah.
It takes 8 pounds of pressure to break a bone. It takes less for ligament tendons. If he's hitting him in his ribs, I wouldn't be surprised. That dude could have broken ribs now from that.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of pushing. There's the bike, and then the big guy goes over and he's like, this is done.
Well, it's obvious that the big guy wants to be a big guy. You know what I'm saying? You see, he wasn't getting.
I gotta give these public safety officers credit, right? Like they're summer help security guards, right? They're not
but
cops.
He's getting this guy's getting involved. You know, she's keeping him back. Well, the one thing you can see by this video, I think everybody in the world is tired of police brutality, and everybody wants to be the videographer. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
White, black, Spanish, whomever you are, everybody wants to tape now. Nobody wants to miss this. I don't have any problems with his knees on the guy's legs. I don't have any problems with that.
And all of them, this guy's getting arrested over here. We didn't even see him in the background, right?
Yeah.
All of them get cuffed, and from what I've seen, brought right up. Like nobody's on them after they're cuffed, which is what we want to avoid in life, right?
Yeah. Let's go to another video and see what else we have in store.
Some of the other videos weren't. You didn't send me too many this week that were these style.
What did I send you? Did I send you conversations or topics or something like that? Maybe. Yeah, because even if I play this.
The number of open FBI domestic terrorism investigations this year has increased significantly. The two most lethal elements of the domestic violence extremist threat are racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and militia violent extremists. In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Maybe you might have to play that one more time for the people in the back seat, in back row.
The number of open FBI domestic terrorism investigations this year has increased significantly. The two most lethal elements of the domestic violence extremist threat are racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and militia violent extremists. In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Kev, you can go first, and then Chuck,
okay.
And then I'll follow.
So a couple of things. He's talking domestic. So domestic does not count ISIS, Al Qaeda inspired terrorism, right? Those are two separate entities. So he's saying that the domestic violence threat. So just so we have the background on what it is. But yes, he's saying white supremacy and militia, two biggest ones. And he's correct. I've been studying and, that's my space, right? Violent extremist is what I know. I've been working in that space for 15 years now.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Kev, before I ask Chuck his opinion of it and let Chuck comment on it? I'm personally, I'm going to record. I think it was probably always been there, but I do personally think 45 fueled it. What's your take on that?
Well, so yes. Did he help it? Sure. There's no. It's always been there. It's even clearer. I think we've gotten better as a nation, right? It's better than we were 100 years ago. I think that's not arguable. Did he give us a spike? Did we have a spike? Yeah, I'll say we had a spike. It's tough to measure these things. If I watch lots of politicians and pundits debate over what's the bigger threat. Is it domestic violence? Is it domestic terrorism and white supremacy, or is it ISIS followers? And the answer is, Bill, it doesn't matter which one's the bigger threat. I investigate both, and I investigate all. To me, I don't spend time on trying to. Year to year, there's a fluctuation, and it depends on what you're using as a measurement. You're muted, Bill. And Pastor Graves just threw in the comments. The KKK is a terrorist organization. I completely agree. They should be designated. We have yet, as a nation, to designate a domestic terrorist group. We have not done that. Should we? Absolutely. But that's not a look. We can go back 5 presidents, none of them did it. We can go back 10 presidents, none of them did it. The only thing that counts as a terrorist organization, according to our laws, federal laws, is a foreign terrorist organization like ISIS and Al Qaeda, which makes us in law enforcement, it limits us. So if you give money to the KKK, I can't charge you. You give money to ISIS, I can charge you. That's the difference. If you join ISIS, I could charge you. If you join the KKK, I can't. I don't know why the federal government hasn't changed on that. But look, we've had Democrats and Republicans running it. We've had Democrats and Republicans running, the Senate, the House, the presidency. We've had incidents where Democrats run everything. We have incidents when Republicans ran everything. None of them have changed it. And I don't fully comprehend the why.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think he's fueled it. I think it's come to light. It's a shame that they, as much as people will talk about Black Lives Matter and they call them a terrorist group and stuff like that, that they have not yet deemed them a terrorist group. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and it's disgusting.
I know I'm not taking anything away from what Kevin said. Kevin said that he does believe and think that things have gotten better. But my point, I'm not saying that things haven't gotten better.
Hold on, I missed that for a second. Hold on, excuse me, Kev. You think things have gotten better?
I said in 100 years.
Oh, okay.
I said today compared to 100 years ago, we're better. Have we had a recent spike? Yeah.
Well, 100 years ago, Chuck and I would be slaves, or we might be kings and queens. I don't know.
100 years ago,
we're not where we were.
150 years ago.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, 150 years ago, you would have a good chance of being a slave. 100 years ago, you were in segregation and other, disgusting things in this world. We've improved, was what I'm saying. We continue to improve decade after decade, but I think we took a step back.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, my feelings on that is that if in fact we took a step forward, then regardless of whether or not we had a 45th or 46th or 47th president as a country, or if you are looking at the fact of just humanity itself, it never would have degraded to that. You know what I'm saying? If morally and ethically I have certain standards, I don't give a damn who's overseeing me. I don't care who's a part of or who I'm affiliated with. If that's who and what I am as an individual, my character, it will continue to show and illustrate itself regardless of who my president is. All right, just as in terms of just being human beings, in terms of humanity. That nonsense that has happened under his tutelage, excuse the expression, whether we've progressed 100 years, that stuff has always been sitting there. They just wanted the right person to say, hey, it's okay now. It's our time. We can come out and we can show who we truly are. So those cats that might have been sitting in the office with at work, or maybe on his work, maybe sitting in a bar chatting and having a good time with, those cats all had underlying thoughts and feelings. But the overall climate was such that it wasn't out on Broadway. It wasn't something they were willing to come out and actually be vocal about. This cat said, hey, it's okay. Because if he could sit there and marginalize Black people, brown people, women, disrespect people of different cultures, hey, if he's going to get away with it, we can all get away with it. Absolutely. And that being said, that's what pretty much spearheaded all the choose of expression, I would say all the degenerates coming out of the woodwork.
Yes, I concur. Kev?
Yeah, listen, to me, look, violent extremists and why part of the reason, yes, he's part of the reason there's a spike. The internet is part of a reason there's a spike over the last bunch of years. People have always had these crazy views. And like I said, I do violent extremists. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's white supremacist or neo-Nazi, or Al-Qaeda follower, it doesn't matter. When we were kids, people who were like that lived in a vacuum by themselves, and they had nobody to talk to. They didn't have an echo chamber. Today we have echo chambers, and people who have those stupid views and crazy views, can now share them with other people, and then it grows and it grows
Yes.
and it grows. The echo chamber is what's taking on a new era for us, that we're seeing more and more of these extremists
Like
and followers, and
like you said, Pastor Gray said, the KKK is a terrorist organization. Mark said the key word is domestic. This has been in place since Timothy McVeigh. Local gangs like MS-13s are just as bad, in my opinion. Kevin Graves, Pastor said, before Obama, Bin Laden, there was Timothy McVeigh and Ted Kaczynski, I think that's what.
Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Yeah, exactly. Sharon Saunders said, domestic terrorism in America has always existed. The KKK is a domestic terrorist organization that started in 156 years ago in 1865. Racism is widely predominantly white. Domestic terrorist groups still thrive. Mark said, it's a shame, Bill, that the NOI may still be on the terrorist list. Bad Anglo-Saxon hate groups get it passed. Very much so. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in, watching. Go ahead.
But I still go to my question of, right, like, I'm completely behind this, right? The KKK should be declared. No ends, ifs, or buts. Why has nobody done it? And both parties.
That's an excellent point.
And I don't know if there's anybody out there who understands, who can do the research on it, what it would take. Is it an act from Congress? I don't know, but it's not been done. And that makes it, those of us in law enforcement who investigate these things, it makes it harder. I can't investigate you for being a member of the KKK. I can investigate you for being a member of the KKK and you're committing a crime, and you're threatening violence. Then I could start to look at you. Where if it was ISIS, just saying I'm a supporter, I can look at you. Right? There's a big difference. But I don't know.
Yeah, Chuck, you got a take on it?
No, I mean that's a very clear and very valid point. I mean, the KKK has been in this. I mean they've been rooted in sometimes in terms of conspiracy theories, they've been rooted directly in assassinations, right? I mean, it's not as if they haven't committed and done things which have not been heinous against other human beings, or they've committed crimes against humanity. But nonetheless, despite the circumstances, once again, like you said very clearly, why haven't they been labeled such a group? Why is it to this day, after everything and anything that's occurred that's centered around them, even where their money is funneled, why haven't they been looked at as a domestic terrorist group?
Yeah, I mean, I think
here you got Black Lives Matter. We just trying to get close to we're trying to get close to a fence in order to just outside of the White House, and all of a sudden, we're labeled, but guys can jump fences, take over the White House, and I still find it disgusting that there's still a divide in wanting to actually commit to a committee to investigate the overall incident on January 6th. Like, Republicans is just like, no, they're totally against it, because what it's going to do is it's going to put them out on Broadway. It's going to put them out on Front Street. It's going to pull them out, because if in fact, you know what I mean, that still bothers me.
I'll say this because, we probably look at different media things, and this is where the world gets crazy. One, my opinion on DC, right? Like, lock them all up. Right. Those who had flex cuffs on them, put them away for a long, long time, right? You don't come to a protest and jump and storm the Capitol with flex cuff on you because you were going to do, first aid to somebody. I honestly believe that they would have been allowed to stay in there and got members of Congress, they would have killed some of them. Like, I honestly believe that. So
absolutely.
Also understand that over 400 people from there have been arrested, right? Like, they've gone, the amount that the FBI has spent into this investigation is phenomenal. They are going methodically after every single one of them. What I have heard, none of us have read the proposal. So there's a proposal written out for what the committee would investigate and rules of this. So from what I heard, and I get the opposing side of this, is that in the rules, it's only the Democrats in the group can pick everybody who is going to conduct the investigation. So it's only a one party gets to do the investigation. It's not bipartisan. That's the Republicans' complaint, that it is
Okay,
it
but
is
let me
not a
just say this.
bipartisan thing. Like the 9/11 Commission was a bipartisan. They picked one head, but then they kind of split up the team. Republicans, Democrats, both sides, and they went at it. This is going to be investigated strictly by Democrats. And I have an issue with that if that's going to be done that way, right? Like I do. Myself.
Okay, but I'm glad you brought that up, because with that being said, it's obviously that the Republicans don't even want to, like Chuck said, they're taking a certain stance on June 6th. I mean January 6th. So why would I want the Republicans to be a part of something when you're not even showing me that you're willing to be bipartisan at all?
Well, you can't say all Republicans, Bill. I mean, that's just, well, there's some who haven't, but there's plenty who have said, who have sided on that it was an attack. There are plenty.
Why didn't we get a vote at the Senate?
That's why I just said to you why, because that the way the bill is written, it is only Democrats will be allowed to do the investigation. It's a one-sided thing, and I don't like any time one side or the other.
I mean, I find that kind of hard to believe, because I think initially, I mean, you could be right, you could be totally right, but I think there was an actual collective effort to bring all parties to the table, right? I'm assuming that it was supposed to be bipartisan. It was something that, in fact, they had spoke very emphatically about. But if I'm Susan's question, I ain't gonna lie, if I'm a Democrat and here it is, I'm trying to get bipartisanship, and for whatever reason, I can't get you in the room with me, and for whatever reason, this might be a bad reflection on your party, you kind of leave me no choice, say, then the hell with you. I'll just make it all Democratic, investigation. Not that I'm saying that's how it ended up, but I'm just saying overall.
I know. I'm just going with, there's usually a little bit more behind the scenes that we don't get to hear, right? Like we don't get it. So if this was the opposite, right? Say the Republicans ran Congress today and they put the bill out there and they were going to run the investigation. Do you think the Democrats would vote yes? I think they'd vote no. And they would want that split. In general, I don't trust both sides.
I agree with that statement, that the last one you just said. Yeah. But the bottom line is, I'm a firm believer. If you got it, it don't need to be tweaked, or I don't need to be involved. That's when you call delegating responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? If Chuck can handle something, then Chuck, tell me what you did on it. You understand what I'm saying? If I know Chuck is going to be fair and right-minded, or he's going to handle a situation, because that's the way we've all worked in a paramilitary organization.
We trust each other. There's a difference, Bill. I would trust you if you were the only one of the three of us to walk inside an investigation, and you would be our eyes and ears. Completely trust you. I trust Chuck.
But I get it.
Politicians don't trust each other, and there's reasons. We don't trust them.
But you know what's so funny? Then shame on us for keep putting these people back, Republicans and Democrats, whomever. It's shame that we keep putting people back in office that are like little kids up there spatting and disagreeing. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because you didn't do this, and I'm not going to do this because you didn't do that. Listen, the bottom line is a person 6 feet in the ground dead understand what happened on January 6th. Everybody understands what January 6th. To say this
is so disgusting, man. There are people that died subsequent to this thing. And even that, even the humane part of knowing that people died on that day, to not even want to even open the doors to start an investigation just for the purposes of the people that perished, especially those members of the service that were in uniform, to give them closure. It's fucking disgusting, man.
Yeah.
Well, understand the investigation's also being done, gentlemen, right? The FBI is, like I said, investigating this. There's 400 plus people arrested. There are more coming. Right, like that's being done. They're generating all the information on this. They'll put out a final report on what was there, what was known, who did what. So in essence, this is actually being done. Right, this is not being completely like we're ignoring the date happened. Right, and the FBI started that under the previous administration. Like they were being arrested immediately.
Well, I mean,
not to have a comprehensive actual summit of people that want to go in depth, where they should have hearings and so on and so forth, like they would do with any other issue. I mean, I've seen them have hearings on TV about things, especially that are completely boring.
Yeah.
airplanes and all types of nonsense. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So now this being something, all about ridiculous stuff. Like you spend the taxpayers' money to be on CNN or whatever, to have a conference and have these investigations about some of the most idiotic topics. But here it is. You have something that had a direct impact on this country. Other countries watched us, excuse the expression, lose it, right? You saw these people storm the Capitol, and here it is, something that is even as equivalent as heinous as 9/11. That was a civil insurrection. No, we want to just forget about it. They really weren't that bad. They were peaceful. It wasn't a big deal. Let's just forget about it and move forward. That's ridiculous.
It's totally disgusting. It really is. Let me just read some of the comments, everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Thank you all for chiming in with us and hanging out. Appreciate you all. Vanetta said, I feel it's amazing that Black Panther, Malcolm X, Dr. King were considered a threat because they were uplifting our community, and the government doesn't want us to help ourselves. Absolutely. Let me just say that. I've said time and time again, anybody of color has always been deemed a terrorist by white mouths. You know what I'm saying? Sharon Saunders says they haven't been looked at us. Okay, let me put my glasses on in a minute. They haven't been looked at us domestic terrorists because it's a white organization. Yet America ruled the Black Panthers as terrorists. Exactly. But Netta said the Republicans don't want to investigate because maybe, just maybe, they are involved in it. Vanetta, I agree with you on that. All their lives were threatened. Maybe in one of those got hurt. Maybe it would be a bipartisan. You know what's so funny? I felt like, and let me keep it 100 with everybody. Real talk as real as I can get. This is a real talk moment. What the Republicans are doing about January 6th and all things that have come to hurt people is like a black person saying a black person did something wrong and a black person defended him, talking about, well, he's starving and he can't do this or something like that. Let's not give excuses. Let's call a spade, please. And that's where the problem lies. If we're going to justify something, then that's part of the problem. It's like a little kid spitting at his parent. And he's talking about, oh, he's expressing himself. Pop that little rascal on, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he's expressing himself, I'm expressing myself. That little Tasmanian devil ain't spitting at me, that demon child. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's unheard of. I've seen people say, oh, well, little Anthony is just, expressing himself. He's acting out. He's mad. Hey, F a timeout. Time that ass. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say, the moral of what I'm trying to say is that let's stop giving excuses and justification for stupidity. You understand what I'm saying? Let's call a spade a spade. And I think that's the elephant in the room. People are still trying to say, well, they didn't do this. And I'm not saying you, Kevin. I'm just saying some people will say, oh, people didn't do this. They didn't do that. Oh, it really wasn't that bad. Oh, maybe why January 6th is such a problem, because maybe people deep down inside believe it should have happened. Are they glad it happened? They really believe that Trump is this, and they really believe that those are their friends, because they believe that they hate liberals and they hate like that. Listen, behind the uniforms that we've all worn, we've all had our personal feelings. But listen, let me tell you this. There hasn't been any parade of color that hasn't been deemed the worst parades in the city. There hasn't been any parade. Why is that? You know what I'm saying? Labor Day parade, it's hell. African American Day parade, it's hell. Puerto Rican Day parade only got bad when people got in trouble in Central Park. Otherwise than that, everybody wanted to work it because they wanted to look at the women. St. Patrick's Day parade, they go drinking after. Thanksgiving Day
they
parade.
They go drinking the day before.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, it wasn't until officers started getting in trouble in their uniform, they was drunk. Remember?
Yeah.
We were all in the job because you could always wear your uniform after and hang out and go into bars. Every Irish bar had cops in there drunk. Until a cop got into an altercation Then next thing you know, it's like, okay, well, we're going to say, let me tell you something. Alcohol is probably the worst drug ever, but it's a white man's drug. So it'll never be deemed unnecessary. You know, listen, we all know you can go to work unfit for duty and be all taken care of. You understand what I'm saying? You call in, yo, my wife's having a baby. Yo, we don't have nobody to fit the tour. You got to come in. Yo, I hung out last night with Jimmy at O'Doul's. Okay, yo, don't worry. I'll give you a 28. Or just come in. You can be station house security. You understand what I'm saying? We all know that's the thing. You know, I'm not trying to divulge, in-house shit. But listen, certain things are being taken care of. So all I'm trying to say is that things like this, that's BS. Kevin Graves is talking to Sharon. He said, Sharon, the screening of the birth of the nation in the White House, Woodrow Wilson administration on February 18th, 1915, certainly helped the resolute the KKK. What's up, James Baker? Vanetta said, it's a lot more behind the scenes. It's not about party. It's about our democracy that affects all, no matter the party. Sharon said the majority of the Republicans did not stand up and publicly acknowledge the attack on January 6th as an insurrection or a domestic terrorist act. And that's my point. What Sharon is just saying right now, that is totally the issue at hand.
But I don't know if that's true.
Well, tell me, Joe, prove it. Well, tell me.
Prove to me that the majority
did you listen to
or did.
Did you listen to the
You're
hearing?
asking for, do I think that there are Republicans who did not? Yeah, of course there are. The phrase majority? You can't tell me, you know what the majority of Republicans did. I'm going to argue that.
So, okay, well, listen, since you like to argue that, then tell me why they didn't get the bill passed or whatever.
I just explained that.
So the only reason why they didn't want to pass
They're
that bill,
arguing over the nuances within the bill. They're fighting over it, right? Does it mean the bill? It still doesn't mean the bill won't get passed. It doesn't mean this thing won't happen. They're fighting over it right now. And when our politicians fight, they like to publicly embarrass each other and make each other look bad.
But you do want.
There is a chance.
You do want to say there was other issues regarding that bill, whereas the Republicans also wanted them to investigate. They wanted to go outside of the scope of what happened directly on January 6th. They wanted to bring in the factors of Black Lives Matter and everything else that had nothing to do with the insurrection on January 6th.
And the Democrats that doesn't belong there, and I'm with you.
Right,
it doesn't belong.
So
there.
this is no. We're not here to investigate like that. They're not the ones that jump over the fence, and start breaking windows, and acting like freaking animals.
Here's my challenge to you, Chuck, for this week. Right, go read a couple of the right-wing media outlets about this, and and hear their side. Right, because and both sides are wrong. Like you got to remember something. My real core feeling here: I don't like either side. I lean more right than left, but I don't trust either of them. And if you read in CNN and the New York Times, they're going to tell you one way, and if you read in Fox, they're going to tell you another. And somehow we as people have to read both and kind of mind meld what actually happened. It's difficult. This is why I wish.
Let me ask you a question, and I agree with you on that. Because as this world that we've definitely embarked on in the journalism aspect, we will have to be knowledgeable and forthcoming of what we discuss and put forward. Not just always, real talk is about opinion. That's the organic aspect of real talk. You putting your opinion out there. But of course, it's sprinkled with a lot of facts. But with that being said, certain things are just blatant. You know what I'm saying? If it's cloudy outside, there's a possibility chance it's going to rain. You know what I'm saying? If rain is coming out the sky, if I feel some drops, then it's a possibility, a good ass chance it's going to rain. You know, if there's flakes coming out the skies, it's going to snow. So I say all that to say, like, it just can't be about one little thing and the thing. And listen, you can go now. This is one thing you like to do the stats. You know what I'm saying? Go to YouTube, go to anything and look at the hearings that they had. Listen to what the Republicans were saying. They didn't say anything in those things about, I have problems with you all being the gatekeepers to the rules and stuff like that. They didn't say that.
Actually, they did. That's where I got it from, though. I didn't make it up.
Well, okay.
We watch different news, so we see different. I'll go back to what I really love.
Oh, no,
So
I watch the enemy news too.
Huh?
I try not to watch too much Fox. I watch the enemy news too. I try to know what the enemy.
I don't watch any Fox. I don't watch any CNN. I don't watch any Fox. Right? Like I've given up on both of them. I gotta say goodnight to my kids.
What do you watch, Kevin? That you're okay? Oh, he's entertaining his kids. So everybody, tell the kids we said hi. Happy, like I said, happy Father's Day to everybody out there.
I don't tell. What I would like to see: politicians wear body cameras.
My question is,
you want us in law
let's say based on the
enforcement
insurrection, let's say for argument's sake, that group got through, right? And they would have started tagging a bunch of Republicans. They'd have started beating the hell out of some Republicans. You think their overall mindset would have been different, that they would have wanted that investigation if they had gotten it and if they had been assaulted, or for argument's sake, because I know they all had to feel threatened, right? They all felt scared. They all knew that and thought that something was going to happen to them. Now, let's say they had gotten and breached and gotten through. And actually, because you don't know directly when emotions are high and you're just trying to, create havoc. I don't know. You don't have a tag on you that says Republican, and she doesn't have a tag on her that says Democrat. You're just going for broke. Do you think the overall direction would have been differently, or they would have, even though they dislike each other, if let's say one of the Republicans or someone within that particular cabinet would have been assaulted, or they would have lost a loved one that was on that day? Do you think the overall sentiment or the direction would have been different?
Let's see in 6 months if this investigation happens or not, right? If this is what I think it is, that they're just fighting over the rules of engagement, it's going to happen. If in the end the Republicans say there's no way we're not letting it, I'm with you and I'm against them, right? That's the best I can give you on this. But like I said, it is being done. So while this rhetoric happens, the real investigation is still being done. Right, the 400 plus people have been arrested, and they're not getting out. Right, like the people who've been arrested, the ones who are just charged at the moment with trespassing, into there, they're all being held. Right, like understand like what is being done with this. I'll put up the link if anybody wants to look at the list of everybody.
I'll be more than happy to read it, man.
Yeah,
it's a ton of reading. It's 400 plus.
And put some stats with it.
I'll give you the stats, my friend. Give it to you in a minute.
As that wino on the corner would say, put it up. Put it up. Put it up, stats. You know what I'm saying? Listen. So,
share it, man. Share it.
Before we get off the politics subject, they just had the summit. What do you think about that? Seems like it was more peaceful than before. From what the other leaders were saying, that Biden, of course, is a different energy than 45. Will that come out to mean anything? Hopefully, it's communication dialogue. What's your take on the summit, Kevin? And then I'll go to you, Chuck.
Honestly, you got to leave me out of this one. I didn't pay attention to it.
All right, Chuck, did you catch
that's
it?
how little I was interested in this.
Yeah, I caught some of it. I just think overall, man, like I said, it all stems once again, right, from our current leader's perspective, right? I mean, and his way of dealing and handling and looking at certain different situations associated with these various countries. And I think that all we can do is, the word I'm looking for, and it's just the word hope, right? There's a chance, there's an opportunity that hope is what we're all looking forward to, and that we're not hated, we're not disrespected, we're not looked at as if like for instance, we were reality TV, man, for the last 4 freaking years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
we were
AMC,
so sad, TLC, Chuck, we were all that.
You know what's so sad, Chuck, is that we were reality TV, and there's people that don't feel that we were reality TV. That's what that baffles
exactly.
To no end that there are people that honestly listen. I wasn't a Reagan fan, right? But he act presidential. I wasn't a Bush fan. He act presidential. No matter if I was a fan or not fan, everybody still act presidential. Clinton was kind of off the bat, under the table, but he would freak. You know what I'm saying? Clinton had to get his little swerve on. He was a little different. So I can't say that was presidential, or maybe it was. I don't know what goes on with this shit. Clinton was like, "Yeah, I'll sign that bill right there, like that." You know what I'm saying? So, but going forward, listen, it just has to be better communication.
Look at Kevin. Kevin shaking his head like, "Oh no, you didn't say that."
Yeah. Real talk, everybody. You gotta have a little laughter in this world too, man. Kev, what else? Do we have any other things in there in the video?
Well, I did share in the chat from the Justice Department. It's like I said, the actual list of everybody who's been arrested. It's pretty, substantial.
Don't have us looking. We see only 6 names in there. We're gonna call you out. We're gonna see.
My friend, come on.
You see 6 little names, and you're like, man.
He did me again.
What do we got good up, man?
Put it up.
All right, I'm enhancing. I got you. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, there we go.
Right. This is from this is DOJ. This is the government's. This is from DOJ's website. This is not some other entity. So they're giving their stats for the arrests related to.
Let me see what these. Let me see these charges. Trespassing and shit. What are these charges on here?
Entering in a restricted building, disorderly and disruptive conduct, restricted building, disorderly conduct in Capitol, picketing in the Capitol building.
Oh, those are real. Some of these are tough crimes right there, guys.
Bill, understand what these, Bill.
It's a federal building. I know it's a federal building.
They're all being held. These are the initial charges, right? And with every person here, what goes on with them is then they're arrested, their phones taken, their computers taken, their houses are searched. And then all of that data is processed and then new charges are added. And there's bunches of them that new charges are added. But this list is huge. I'm still in the bees.
I understand the list.
You don't see Branzetti, I'll tell you that.
No, but I don't. First, I don't see where the names. Oh, those are the names right there.
I'm still in the bees.
Okay, good. Well, go ahead. Get the rolling, baby. Yeah.
All right, like this one's a pretty large one. What did he get?
All
right. So
what did he get charged with? Knowingly entering.
Yeah, there are ones who are being charged with higher felonies. Like I said, it is as stuff is being learned, and I can't go any more into that. But believe me, this is what's being done. But this is a huge list. I was trying to find a site that gave me the actual, the numbers, my stats. 451 have been unsealed, right? 465 have been arrested. 451 have been unsealed. That's from CBS News as of 3 days ago.
But only 181 have been indicted.
Well, it's the only ones that have to be indicted. So because of COVID, tons of these.
Now it's COVID.
Bill. It's because of COVID, meaning there was no grand jury.
I'm just messing with you.
They didn't have grand juries, so nothing was indicted. They're all, which is even more crazy.
So let me ask you a question.
Think about it. These are unindicted people who are still being held.
So about the ones that were indicted, there wasn't any grand jury for those either, though.
Yeah, no, some of the grand juries have started. So they are being indicted. The ones who are indicted, the 181 who have been indicted, the grand juries have started, but they're way behind. There are people who've been arrested, who have for weeks were not formally charged, who for months were not indicted and being held.
Chuck, one thing. This is the same Kevin since 1994. You always got to answer.
Isn't that one of the main things they taught us in the academy, Bill?
Always have an answer.
Always got
Always
an
have
answer.
an answer.
They
That's
taught
it.
that. I didn't teach that in the academy. They taught that on the street. Day one. Always have an
Always
answer.
have an answer.
I ain't
Some
mad at
captain pulls up to you, asks you a question. Always have an
Always
answer.
have an answer.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I learned that
Absolutely.
early on, my friend, and
Yeah.
see, it still works.
Absolutely. What else?
Oh,
What else we got, Kev? We got any more? Oh, okay.
You want
Yes.
this guy?
yeah, this
Yes.
was very interesting.
Yes. What is this over
What
here?
makes up 14% of the population and commits 56% of the violent crime?
Just say you're a white supremacist. It's a lot less words. Like, if you're going to really use white supremacist dog whistles, at least get the dog whistle right. This is the common talking point of, despite making up 13% of the population, black people commit over 50% of all crime, or violent crime, or some variation of that. Now, this is just categorically false. Now, what you're probably referring to is that in 2017, African Americans made up 53.1% of total murder and manslaughter arrests. You hear that last word there? Arrests. Take that into account. That means that these were not crimes proven in court. These were merely arrests that were made. So much for innocent until proven guilty, right? I don't know about you, but I think due process is kind of important. So let's take a look at what happens after they're arrested. Did you know that African Americans make up 50% of exonerations for murder? And they're 7 times as likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder. So yeah, your white supremacist dog whistle is just total BS. Just say you're a racist piece of shit. It's a lot less words.
What's your take on that, Kev? Stats.
So stats. I'll give you that. What he just said. One, I don't know where he got the stats, so we have to figure that out ourselves. Just because the guy's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. But
oh shit!
that's legit. He's got to show me where he got it from. But let's go into that stats.
God. People say the same. Right now, people say the same thing about you. Just because you on a podcast, don't mean you got the stats.
I always display my stats, my friend.
I didn't say you didn't. I didn't say
Oh
you
my
didn't.
God.
I pull them out. So he said, 50, whatever that was the year he chose, 53%.
Well, play it again. Play it again.
2017.
53% of murders and manslaughters were arrests of black men. And then he said 50% of black men were exonerated. Well, 50% of the exonerations were of black men.
Kev, do me a
If
favor.
you're
On serious
50%,
time, can you play it again? Play it again.
yeah, if you're 50% of the arrests, and then you're 50% of the exonerations, that's an even stat. I don't understand the.
What makes up 14% of the population
This guy's an
and
idiot.
commits 56% of the violent crime?
Just say you're a white supremacist. It's a lot less words. Like, if you're going to really use white supremacist dog whistles, at least get the dog whistle right. This is the common talking point of, despite making up 13% of the population, black people commit over 50% of all crime, or violent crime, or some variation of that. Now, this is just categorically false. Now, what you're probably referring to is that in 2017, African Americans made up 53.1% of total murder and manslaughter arrests. You hear that last word there? Arrests. Take that into account. That means that these were not crimes proven in court. These were merely arrests that were made. So much for innocent until proven guilty, right? I don't know about you, but I think due process is kind of important. So let's take a look at what happens after they're arrested. Did you know that African Americans make up 50% of exonerations for murder? And they're 7 times as likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder. So yeah, your white supremacist dog whistle is just total BS.
If you're 50%, I'm confused with his thing. So 50% of exonerations, which goes into the stats. If it's 50% of the arrest, you're 50% of the exonerations. That kind of makes sense. But if you're 50% of the exonerations, but 7 times more likely.
So basically, you've been arrested much more than that, but and then 50% of it have. Well, you know, and I know. What does the lawyer say? Oh, just take this plea.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to. If you go to trial, you might get 3 years, but if you take the plea, you can get 3 weeks of community service.
Yeah.
So somebody's getting.
100%, Bill. There's a lot of people who pleaded things they shouldn't, and there are a lot of people get away with crimes they did, right? Like, our system is far from perfect. Look, I never. Are there, to me, there are racial anomalies in arrests and crimes and violent crimes? Sure.
Now,
I don't look at it that way. I would look at it as
like this. Stay with me right
we're
there.
looking at it wrong.
Kev, stay with me right there. Stay with me.
Ahead.
You just said something. I want you to say it again. You said say it again. What you said.
There are racial anomalies in our crimes, our crime stats.
and arrest, right? I think.
And arrests, yeah, committing crimes, arrests,
Okay, so
all the above.
Stay with me right there. How does Kevin Branzetti change that?
Because the problem isn't the majority is, I believe, the problem has nothing to do with race. It's poverty, right? It is people who are poor are more likely to be arrested. People who are poor are more likely to get into trouble. And if we can work on, you know, I've talked about this on this show, right? Where we used to work, Bill, in the 2-8 was a poor neighborhood. And how did they change it? They moved people out instead of moving them up, right? Like I am a fan of you identify a neighborhood that has an arrest problem. You might have more. Sometimes arrests are the symptom of something else is going on wrong in an area, in a community, in a neighborhood.
So I understand that. Let me just say this. I understand that. So you're just thinking that everybody in a poor neighborhood that got cuffs put on is just because of poverty.
No. Not everybody. There's never going to be an everybody, right? Like, Bill, that's a phrase you'll never get out of my mouth, right? Everybody this or everybody that. It's percentages. It's part of a population. I think if we looked at our jail stats, and I'm sure if somebody was able to find it, and looked at how many people are in jail for violent crimes who grew up below the poverty line, I'm sure that number is huge, as opposed to people who grew up with parents who made $250,000 a year, right? Like the differential is going to be monstrous.
So let me ask you a question, Kevin. I'm just asking you. When we have these mass domestic terrorist shootings in the malls, and them little white kids shooting, I think I sent you that, right? Oh, that's what I think I sent you about the little 2 white kids that were shooting at the cops, and I think I put on social media about.
And I said that to you, the 2 in Florida.
Right.
I think they were, yeah.
If you have that, it should be.
Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I opened dialogue on social media about if they were black kids, what do you think happened? And, you know, it was a big conversation in regards to that, because some people thought that they definitely, if they were black, they would have been killed. Also, you know, some people were saying, well, you know, one of them was shot. Yeah, but you know what's so funny? I don't think we've ever heard from body cam footage, white officer saying before he shot a black person, please don't make me do this, because remember, we've seen black kids get shot for playing in the park with toy guns. And all of us here, all 3 of us here, were old enough. We're from that era where we had played cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, and we all had little pop guns. You had the little ones with the little red pop thing, and you shoot it and then make an actual sound, pop, pop, pop. We've all had guns that actually caps.
Cap gun.
So think about it. Today, kid can't even play. You get a radio call that I think he has a toy gun, and he gets out the car and he just aims fire. And because he's law enforcement, he can say, yo, I thought he had a gun. You know what I'm saying? So please, if you can find that video, I know you, like you said, if you sent it to me, let's show it again, because I think, and then we can close with that, because what's important is that to see, like I said, and I've always said this, to see your own is something different. And that's why I say people of color will never have a fair chance, because you don't have people of color that's coming to the situation. Also, too, I put out stats about what was it, Nassau County, Suffolk County, Kevin? I think we talked about it last time. 6,000 people of color applied for a job out there. Only 61 made it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like people said, they don't want to see people of color over there, you know, telling them what to do and not to do. So, you know, still the powers of be don't have the mindset of a Kevin Branzetti, or do you know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is, you know, Kevin, you are a person that still wants to see, you know, right or wrong. You're a right or wrong kind of person. You know, you break the law, go to jail. You know, but like we said earlier, not everybody that got cuffs on in poverty communities, should go to jail. Because I give you a perfect example where somebody that lives on a house, when their kid gets upset and goes outside and drinks a beer, but he's on the porch or he's in a quiet road, Officer Joe is not going to arrest him, right? But if in Harlem, the kid gets mad and he goes downstairs and buys a beer, or a husband has an argument with his wife and goes outside and wants to have a beer to calm off because he doesn't want to get into a situation with his wife. He wants to de-escalate it. A cop's going to come by and says, "Oh, I got one with an open container." He doesn't give a damn that he was up there arguing with his wife. I'm not saying
I'll make an argument with that, Bill. With those, we as cops were told, right? Like we were demanded to make a certain amount of urinating in public summonses. There was a change in the police department, and we were given that, like the C summonses, what they were called, right? It was urinating, alcohol in public, those kinds of things, and we had to write them.
But it wasn't like we had to have 20 in one. So
no, but you had to have some. You had to have some, and you had to, and like I was on the conditions team in the tweet. We had to write a bunch of them every month. We had to. It was our
but you see what you're saying.
That was the stats. But what we forgot, and I'm going to finish this with you, is common sense with these things, right? Not everybody deserved. I had little sympathy with the urinating in public. I had a lot more sympathy with drinking in public, right? Depending upon how you were doing it, what you were doing, right? Like peeing on somebody else's building in the middle of the daytime, I didn't have much sympathy. You were getting the ticket. Sitting on your porch, your stoop in front of your building with a beer, it's your home. Have a good day.
But with that being said, how many porches and stoops do you have in Harlem?
No, I mean the front of your building. The front.
I mean, okay. I mean, all right. But see, I just wanted clarity because the bottom line is that's what I'm trying to say. If a person, how many times a person could be sitting in the park, you got an open container, you're going to write them. So the narrative is, this is why I talk about, the hypocrisy of law enforcement. Cats go write you a summons for drinking and then go before they leave work, go to the pub and buy a beer and drive home and drink.
Yep.
So it infuriates me, and we all know it. I've seen it.
Right.
I've seen it. Go to the dude's car, and he's like, "Here, have one for the road." Oh, you got a 6-pack? Like, yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
The ride is long. I need something to relax myself. Oh shit! Like
the square bag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
I'm with you.
So what my take was, I wasn't a hypocrite. I wasn't writing a person for an open container unless I was ordered to. That's why I didn't go to conditions. You understand what I'm saying? Because I wasn't going to write C summonses and stuff. I could. There was a certain code of me. Like I give a perfect example. There is no man in this world today that has not peed in the street. If you tell me you didn't pee in the street, you're not a man, because your urinary tract, your urinary thing is different, B. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you come out, you think you just you went to the bathroom before you left the the bar. And next thing you know, you almost 2 lights in, and you're like, oh, I gotta pee again. Yo, you won't find a tree. You won't find a park. You're a man. It happens. Shoot, and I wish you could get the stats on how many women have peed in the street. You know what I'm saying? When they couldn't take it for a long time. So we've all done it. How can I sit there? Now, I get it. I wrote a ticket to a guy for peeing on a church. I thought that was totally defacing, disrespecting the church. But if you're standing in a dark way and you're peeing in a building, and I'm like, yo, no woman walking down the street and stuff like that, I'm kind of understand that, because have I walked home and oh my God, I gotta pee. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna make it. I'm not peeing on myself. Listen, it is what it is, So I mean, things happen. So I mean, that's why I'm trying to say, well, we don't see that longitude and latitude, Kevin, in communities of color. And what happens? is that people of color don't tell their parents, and then they don't pay them tickets, and they end up getting a search warrant. They don't tell their parents, but not because they don't have $10 or whatever the ticket is. They're just embarrassed to say, I got a ticket. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you on that, Bill, but I'm still going to go with, the precinct commander dictated those, right? And we were there with different precinct commanders of different ethnicities, different skin color, different, everything. It was there. They demanded these things. Kevin Branzetti did not create a conditions team to go out and write C summonses.
But Kevin Branzetti wanted to be in conditions.
Huh?
But Kevin Branzetti had a choice to join conditions.
Oh yeah, I did, absolutely.
So let me just say that. Now,
and
the fact
I
that
spent
you went to that unit, but the fact that you went to that unit, you had a responsibility to do that is totally different than if you were Sector Henry or 8 Charlie. So, like, you can't give me that. You did it. Like, we were in SNU together. We could listen.
Did you ever have a precinct CO say, I want more, like they would come out and say, we need more 250s because robberies are up. So we need more stop, question, and frisks done because robberies are up. We need more. They got in trouble at Comstat. So they wanted more C summonses for peeing or people drinking in public or unlicensed vendors. They never came out and said, but be smart when you do it. Use discretion when you do it. These are scenarios you shouldn't do it. They just came out and said, I want more.
Kevin, I'm not disputing that that has not happened. But what I am saying to you is that you go to a unit that you had to write that.
Mm-hmm.
So you blaming it on the CO. When you were in a sector, it wasn't stressed on us like, yo, you got to come in here and give me 20 or 21 arrests or 5 250s and 3 C summonses. That was never given to us in the 2A, Kevin. So you don't tell me that it wasn't. You was in condition. That was
because we were off patrol quickly. When I was the sergeant in the 5-0, it absolutely was the standard there. Absolutely was. And that was dictated by the CO, not by me.
All right.
And I'm assuming that conditions was supposed
patrol.
Conditions was supposed to address quality of life issues.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, but how did you get to conditions unit? Yeah, you're on patrol.
Right on patrol.
You wrote these things in the CO today.
Oh, guess what? You like to write summonses. I'll put you on conditions. Yeah. Now you can write me a bunch of C's.
Exactly. So, Kevin, can you explain to Mark or Chuck, either one of you, explain to Mark what conditions it was in the precinct at the time? What that conditions unit?
At the time when we were at 2-8, the conditions unit was uniform unit. I don't know, maybe there was 8 of us assigned to handle what the CO deemed the precinct conditions that they wanted fixed. All right. And this was the complaint back then. Equality, it's usually quality of life stuff. So what we did was we had to go out and write summonses for drinking in public, urinating in public. We had to make trespassing arrests in building, for those were done, right? It was a lot of building verticals. Go see who's in that building doesn't belong. They don't belong, they go to jail. And then we did drug operations. We kind of had our own SNU team. We were a little more interested in doing bigger and better things as a group.
Yes.
So we did those as well. But that's what what the CO deemed, right? And every precinct, the conditions units are a little different. I've seen in other places the conditions unit dealt with the drinking in bars and things happening. And I saw the CO use the conditions unit to have bars closed down left and right, like summons the heck out of them until the business shut.
Yeah, if they unlicensed, they don't.
They can become the CO's hit squad for whatever the CO wants.
And that's fine. That's fine. And I'm not disputing that because conditions was conditions. You do what you have to do. You're in a unit. That's a productivity unit. We was in SNU. That was a productivity unit. So you couldn't go in there and just wait, and do that. Like we had quotas in arrest that we had to make in SNU. So I totally get that. What I'm just trying to say is that when you were in a sector, sectors weren't, mandatory. After a while, sectors, they may tell you, try to get me a couple of 250s or if you stop somebody, put a 250 out there. But it wasn't like getting as many 250s as it was getting a summonses. It wasn't like when you're doing like urinating in public, because you can't write a urinating in public summons if ain't nobody peeing in public, and you don't have, you know what I'm saying?
If you ain't peeing, I ain't writing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm trying to say. Drinking in public was a whole different thing. I remember one time I was with a certain Lieutenant D that we all loved in the 2-8, and it was like a summons blitz. We had to go out here and write summonses. Had to give a person a beer, drinking in public. Not that he wanted to do it, but it's what it's the chain of command. If somebody says do it, you got to do it. You got to find it. So I mean, we understand that it's about stats, and that was a problem with the things like that. But
absolutely,
you don't have these same blitz in white communities. So this is why problems. So when you start talking about, and I say that for this purpose. So when you start talking about poverty and poor precincts and poor communities, people have lived different. I'm not afforded what you're afforded. You know what I'm saying?
But Bill, we can take the 280 as an example. Some of those COs were people of color who demanded those things.
Who? We only had Joyce Stevens. Who?
There wasn't COs. We only had Joyce Stevens. There was plenty of COs of color after Joyce Stevens.
You had?
Over the years. No, I wasn't there anymore. But I'm saying over the years there were more. Right?
No, but you just said,
we'll say Joyce. Fine. I didn't want to say anybody's name, but fine. You know, you want to throw it out there. I was leaving them out.
I didn't want to dime on nobody. Like,
no, but wait a minute. If you're gonna say, we had CEOs.
No, I'm saying we. I've said the 2-8 traditionally has had since we were there. Several.
Well, I can't talk about what was happening when I wasn't
there. And
there.
I think part of the problem had become, and this is CEOs of lots of commands, they just got in their heads of, I need more stop, question, and frisk because my robbery's up. I need more of this because I'm getting in trouble. I need this. I need this. I need this to get promoted. And we stopped thinking of, what are we doing here? Like, I'm all for writing summonses, right? I didn't like my writing moving violations. I testified twice in traffic court. That's how many moving summonses I wrote. 2 times. Lost both. One and no part of that place. I didn't like writing those. I didn't mind writing urinating in public ones because that didn't bother me.
Speaking to the fact in terms of the disparity, in terms of the summonses, when I came through, right, I think you guys came through was FTU, right?
Yeah.
Right. So FTU. So when I came through was NSU, right? So that being said, I was assigned to what was Division 5, right? And Division 5 went to the 2-4. So the 2-4 kind of encompassed, Columbia and that was like the white area out of Division 5, because you had Washington Heights, you had the 3-0, the 3-2, the 2-8, and then you had the 2-4.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember distinctly when, in fact, you were given marching orders. Every month you had to have a certain amount of like A's, B's, and C's, right? Because that's how they critique you. And I can remember like it was yesterday. I decided I was going to give somebody a C summons, and it was in the 2-4. 2-4s, it's not a lot. It's only one section of area 2-4 that has like projects, but after that, you go a little lower. You're talking about Columbia, you're talking about the area where it's not a lot of, it's like mainly white folks. I caught this white cat out in the street, and he was drinking. Open container, clear as day. Got through a fit. So sorry, give me your ID. As I'm getting the guy's ID, one of the sergeants drives up. Sergeant happened to be an Irish cat. He saw me writing a summons to a white dude. He said, "What are you doing?" So this guy had an open container and he's drinking. Walking down the street, he's loud, he's belligerent. I'm writing him a summons. He sat there and tried to rationalize with the guy. Well, you weren't really belligerent. Whoa. I'm writing a summons. He says, "I need you to void that summons." So I'm not voiding it. Because if I was in the 2-8, if I was in the 3-0 and somebody was walking the street with an open container, you wouldn't tell me to void it up there, whoever it was. I'm not voiding it down here. I got pulled into the CO's office. He says, "Well, I don't understand." I said, "Look, once again, The law is the law, right? Am I correct? Doesn't make a difference if you're white, black, or Hispanic. Guy had an open container, and he was coming down the street. He was loud. You could tell he had open container. He had been drinking, a little excessive. And I said, "Look, do my favor, man. You can't, you know." And matter of fact, it was like 11:30 at night, right? It's like 11 because we were doing 4 to 12. So 11:30 night, we're supposed to go back, and we were on our way walking back. And here's this loud white cat. He's been drinking too much, and I'm trying to use my discretion because I don't want to write him. But now he's being belligerent. Now he's making all types of comments, and he's saying all types of derogatory things. All right, fine. Now I'm gonna write your ass. So as a sergeant is driving by because people are trying to walk back to the command, he sees me writing a summons. He tried to give me some 411 about why I shouldn't give him a summons. Says, no, I wrote it anyway. It was to my discretion. And when I got in, of course, the XO was in. Again, we'll understand why he wrote this guy summons. It's because he was belligerent, he was disrespectful, and he had an open container. And guess what? That's what they need me to write, on a normal basis. And he actually tried to talk me out of it. He actually tried to talk me into avoiding the summons, which I didn't do, of course. And guess what? Because I didn't void the summons, the next time I went to the 2-4, they had this freaking foot post that was on the ozone layer, way over on Riverside Drive someplace. And he had me out there by myself, standing across from a park and no cover. And it was raining that day. And he says, you better be out here every single freaking time I come out here to scratch you. It's all good. I know why I was standing out there. I couldn't do anything about it, right? I'm just getting on a job. I'm a rookie. But that's
good for you, though.
No, but that's
I respect that. I agree with your disparity, but I respect what you did.
Yeah, but
that you stood your ground and effort.
No, I'm not avoiding it. Now, the thing that was messed up was, of course, I got, you got the pink copy. God knows what happens when that thing went to the box, right? Because I had to drop the summonses off in that precinct. So when I dropped them off, most likely, I never got called. I went down to the date. Nothing ever happened. The guy never showed up. Nothing ever happened to him. But I'm just talking about the overall disparity where here it is, you got a guy who may live, let's say, in a housing authority. He had an argument with his girlfriend. He's living in the housing authority. He sits on the bench right outside his building and he's drinking a beer to just kind of decompress. And this guy's walking down the street, belligerent, yelling and screaming at 11:30 at night. And now, guess what? I guarantee you the guy sitting on the bench is going to get one. But this guy, you're going to fight me tooth and nail over it.
That's exactly. And that's the difference. So, the one thing that we've all had when we came on this job, was discretion. They always told you could use discretion. And I think I've used it to the best of my ability because no matter what the ethnicity of the person was, I knew how to be discreet and give it the opportunity. Listen, I pulled a woman over for a traffic infraction one time. She was crying profusely. I wasn't going to give her a ticket. Get out of here. You know what I'm saying? But how many people I've seen people get pulled over.
Okay.
I had to do something. Oh, still get the ticket. Drive safe. The dude was like, I'm rushing home. My wife is pregnant. Okay. Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen guys give, like, for instance, give people give like a motors, like especially male blacks, and they have the kids in the back seat. And now here it is, you got your kids in the back seat, right? They look at their father. I don't know what the situation is or their relationship, but for the most part, you look at your dad as being a superhero. You know what I'm saying? He's a protector, right? He's going to protect me. I'm a little kid. I'm sitting in the back seat. My dad is driving. He's the best. And now you get this freaking cop that berates you, takes your freaking license, and even with your kids in the back seat, he has discretion. He sees the kids in the back seat, and he still writes him a summons. And then he berates him a little more, and then says, "Have a nice day." And I was riding with a cat, and I was like, when we got in the car, I said, "My man, this guy's got his kids in the back seat." My man, this is my stop. This is what I'm going to do. My man, I felt horrible. I couldn't do nothing about it, but I felt horrible.
Chuck, this is Bill and I, we've all talked about this. This is why the training cop is so important, who it is, right? Like cops, can you write that? Is that a legit ticket? Sure. Is it fine? Yeah. But what I don't know. At some point I learned the mentality of what does this accomplish? Right? What did I improve? Could I have written that? No. Now, if the kid had those kids in the car with no car seats, no buckle, that guy's getting every ticket I can hand him. Right? Like I got no when I saw kids in the car who were you know, they were sitting on mama's lap or dad's lap, you know, no car seat. I that was my only one I could not take. But the kids were in the back seat. I'm with you. You don't write it. You know, you can give people warnings. You can give verbals. No, I remember whoever was doing it, and I won't name him, was assigned to, you know, the summons guy in the precinct who does car stops all day long. By Mount Morris Park, there was a stop sign coming down Fifth Avenue when you hit the park. And he would sit there parked because people didn't, if you didn't come to that perfect stop, move forward, stop, he would write you. And it was like, come on, dude. Like, what are you writing? Like, that's not, like, stop it. I get the person who blows the red light. Give him one. Fine. You want to do it. But, you know, the point of us writing summonses is supposed to be to help traffic safety, to get people to stop blowing red lights, to protect pedestrians, to protect other drivers.
To reduce fatalities.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the purpose. But the purpose of the police department for writing these things is to make money. Right? Absolutely. Like the city of New York and every city's like this. It's to make money. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. It's why they stopped letting us write the broken taillight summonses. Right? If your brake lights are out, we weren't allowed to write those. When I was a sergeant in the 5-0, I was not allowed to have my guys write those. And I would fight with the lieutenant going, well, you know, that middle brake light, when the government finally realized and made those in cars, rear end accidents dropped 33%. So if that rear brake light is out, there's a 33% more of a chance of an accident. Summons is good.
That's stats. That's stats.
Always have an answer. Bill, always have an answer. Now, the lieutenant, he got his head spun for a second, then he told me to go F myself. But I lost the fight. Yeah, I always have an answer, dude. Always. It's not, Bill hit it on the head before. I've always been like this. Right? This is not. Yeah. But, you know, we started to do things just to do them. And that's kind of where police departments and managers got to realize it's changed. Right? If you're the CO of a precinct, your job is to protect those people, respect the people, but help their lives in whatever way we think is better. And the CO of the 2-8 might run it different than the CO of the 2-5, than the CO of the 5-0 and the 107.
Yo, do you honestly believe the shit that you just said?
Yeah, I honestly believe that, Bill. I honestly believe if I was the CO of the 2...
Do you honestly believe that it's our job to help them make their lives better? Right?
Yes, to make that area better. Right? Yeah, it is.
You really believe that?
Honestly do.
Okay.
Honestly do, Bill. You know, and mine, a lot of that has to do with crime. And there's other things, you know, we'll talk about another day, but a lot of that has to do with crime. Right? If you have a robbery pattern or a burglary pattern, just telling your guys to go out and write more, do more stops in 250s, maybe that solves it, but usually it doesn't. Right? It takes good police work and communicating and trying to learn what the crimes are and find the pattern and see if you can go out and find people. Will you stop more people during that? Yeah, okay. But we had like a standard of just do more 250s, do more 250s, do more of this. And we lost, I think, we lost like the ability to think about a problem set in our precinct, our community, and how do we fix it and make it better.
Well, you know, I do feel that if you got a slew of burglaries, a burglary pattern, and you stop and question people, I think that could be a deterrent because an officer has to be out there to deter. If you don't have an officer out there to deter, you know, but, you know, stopping Charles or you, Kevin, or myself walking down the street, or our wives or ladies, whomever, you know, just to put a name on a paper is BS. And we know that's been done. So that's,
of course it has.
We know that they've abused a necessary tool that I think we all agree is a vital tool to crime fighting. Like, stop questioning first. I mean, like, listen, we see a guy walking, holding a bulge, you know, holding his waist a certain way. We know gun posture. Right now, you can't stop him. You cannot stop that man. So it's almost like you got to wait till he shoots somebody and be like, okay, that's who it is. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Yo, everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I hope I didn't. Colin said, yeah, Tamir Rice was killed for playing with a toy gun, and these two white kids engaged the cops in a shooting spree and are still alive. What the F? Baker said because the bosses that wanted to get promoted didn't care about using discretion. It was only a numbers game at Comstat. Absolutely. Vanetta said white privilege. White privilege is what it's called. Kevin, did you find that video of the little Bonnie and Clyde?
Yeah, I think I got it. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna play that, and then we'll comment on that, and then we'll close out. So when everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti and our special co-host Charles Chuck Richards in the building, baby. If you like it, subscribe to it, share it. This is the only place that's gonna keep it real all the time, 24/7.
When you're ready, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Female has a long gun pointed toward me. I have to hold my cover. Stand by. Juvenile male looks like he has something in his hand as well. Shooting out the rear window toward my direction. Stand by. They're trying to come out the back door. Okay. No weapons in their hand. They just busted out the window in the back. Female has a shotgun in her hand. Stand by. Put the gun down now! Hey guys, just hold behind hard cover. Let's not shoot this man. Let's just hold it. Take our time. 10-4, they're shooting at me. Hold it. Hold the air. Okay, well then you Challenger. But let's hold behind hard cover and let's do everything we can to touch. They look like they're going to try to come out, and I will challenge. Come your hands now! Female's got a light on, appears possibly a bathroom. Stand by. She's got the AK and the shotgun. She's wrapping around the top of her neck. Shot fired! God damn it! Shots fired again. Female now has a pistol. Juvenile male has a long gun, so does the female. Stand by. She's pointing the gun. Pointing the gun behind the trash can. Central, shots fired. Shots fired. LEO, shots fired. The boy's out. He's retreating inside.
She's down behind the garbage can.
He's right there. All right, guys. Let's just chill. Everybody hold up. Take a break. Billy, get back. Come on.
I think the female's down.
Stand by. Where's the little boy? The boy went back inside.
Come on out!
Inside.
Come on out! Come on. Okay!
The boy's throwing guns. Stand by.
Keep your hands up! Keep your hands up! Sawicki, calling to you. The female's on the ground behind the car.
You got eyes on her?
Well, let's worry about getting her secure. Rescue's right here at the community center. I had them.
Get your hands up!
Stop talking. 10-3, 10-3, 10-3.
Okay. Get up on her. Get up on her. Get up on her. Gray, you get that rifle.
Don't reach towards that gun.
Step on that rifle.
Hands up!
Step on that shotgun.
Go to the house. We need some coverage on the house.
Clear her. You get off her. Get the gun. Okay. Hey, stop. Relax. Get that shotgun out of here.
Whoever's got a med kit, some type of med kit, I need it up here now in the garage. All deputies are code 4. Bella Winhoven's going for his med kit.
That's it.
What's your take on it?
Now, do me a favor. If you can you pull that up and let everyone see what these two kids look like? Because I think you had actually shown, I had an article that actually showed what these two little rugrats look like.
Yeah, I think I sent. Yeah, I think I sent both of y'all multiple. Everybody, please understand when Kevin, Chuck, and myself do this. We share information. Look at that. Oh,
there it is. Look at those babies. Look at those little cutie things.
Little demon childs.
Oh my God, man.
Little exorcist and Rosemary's Baby right there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
You know? So, everybody, we do our homework before we come to you with stuff. So anytime you have footage or stuff that you want us to look at or show, please, inbox us, either one of us, so we can, we put it out here, and this is what we do. We discuss we discuss these topics because we want you to have a better understanding. We still want to deal with the culture of law enforcement. The thing about, okay, let me put a positive spin on certain things. The officer's transmission game was impeccable.
It was tight. It was very tight.
It impeccable.
He's going to have military experience. Like that guy probably did 3 tours in Afghanistan or something.
I don't
like
know
to find out his background, right?
I don't know what he did, but I tell you, the way he articulated himself, because for those that don't know, full transparency, real talk. Officers would clown another officer if he came over the radio screaming and hollering. It was like, you sound like, you was a girl, pull your skirt down. You know what I'm saying? I thought somebody had taken you and kidnapped you. So, so we would joke on the officer. So to hear, like, I'm still a fan of that. I try to always be precise and articulate too. But I mean that is a great tact to have, a skill set to have, to be able to articulate your positioning and what's going on. I think it was awesome. So the officers giving over the thing, but did he say, "Oh God, please don't make me do this" in this clip? Was this the one where he said that because he was like, the kids, please God, don't make me. I don't want to shoot them. I don't think this was the one, because there is one that he says that, and I thought that was like, oh wow, he doesn't want to kill the little white kids. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna put it out there as cold and callous as it sound, but I think that was his mentality, because let me tell you something. Just like Colin said, and other people have said, black kids and brown kids don't get that longitude and latitude. We don't. What was the underlining joke, Kevin and Chuck, when we were growing up? What would we tell a white officer? Oh, you're going to give a person of color a ticket so they won't be able to get a city job one day. Right? Mm-hmm. We've all said that.
Right.
Me and Billy Burns used to joke about that all the time. And then there was one time, I never forget, he told a story. He gave a guy an open container and a ticket for an open container size that he said, yo, B, oh yeah, you're going to say, I'm stopping this man from getting a job. And it's the way the story went. If Billy Burns is listening, correct me if I'm wrong. He said, two guys were coming out the store. One guy had a beer. Both of them had a beer. One didn't have it in the bag, and the other one had it in the bag. So the guy that didn't have it in the bag, Billy told him, he said, yo, brother, just get a bag. And I'm still not gonna write you a ticket, but just get a bag. His man, wanting to be Mr. Smartass, says, yo, you can walk down the street with a beer. He can't tell you anything. So Billy's like, what? So he tells the dude, yo, you got a beer. So he says, yo, you be quiet before I give you a summons and stuff. He's like, you can't give me a summons. So he takes his bag. He tells him to go back to the store to get a bag. He says, yo, you don't have to do that. He takes his beer out. He takes the bag off of his beer and gives it to the guy. And then Billy arrests him. So I asked the dude, I said, yo, did you do that? He was like, yeah. So I'm like, yo, you're an idiot. You're going to college and you don't know the law? Like, how asinine was that for you to stand up and fight for a cause that you're totally wrong for? So, yeah, sometimes the moral of certain stories is not every white cop is going to abuse you. You know what I'm saying? And the moral story is sometimes people of color need to learn the law before you start preaching the law. Because the bottom line is that the brother was totally wrong, and he got a summons for talking out of turn, and Billy wasn't going to give him a summons. So that's what that is about. But now when we see these little demon childs, and what are we going to hear? One of them did get shot. I think we know one of them got shot, but the restraint of the officers not to shoot is what I'm zeroing in on, because the bottom line is it has not been given. It has not been afforded to the people of color. Chuck, your take, Kev, yours, and then I'll close, and then we can close out together. Go ahead.
The thing that I find real fascinating is that when the scenario first started, right, when this incident first happened, it was daylight. You realize it was daylight.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is apparent that they took time, because now it's dark. There were more officers on the scene. God knows how much time they took before they decided to take some type of corrective measure to move in on these kids. Because ordinarily, right, most cops, boom, used to start firing, we shoot our way. You know, it would have been a place, maybe a brother or sister of color. They'd have got a couple other cavalry members there, and they just would have advanced. And they would have started firing into the house. Or as they getting shot, they would have moved forward and they would start shooting. But no, it's apparent that they methodically waited, and it got dark. And then all of a sudden, they wait till they run out of ammo or whatever, and they come out, and everyone's all happy, no one's shot, and everything is punky dirty. You know?
Yo, they set up a little THQ.
Right.
They set up a little THQ. They called it hostage negotiation. Everything they could say these little white kids pop that bullet in that ass. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know how long it took, but you could see that they took their time because it was dark by the time they apprehended these two little rugrats. You know, so once again, if that had been if this had been a brother or someone of color, these two kids, I don't think they would have methodically taken that much time. I don't think so. They would have stormed it, especially if you notice at the end of it, they all had AR-15s themselves, right? They had 2 or 3 of them that were carrying AR-15s. Do not think for a minute that they haven't people of color. They just would have went, okay, they were stacked and it went in there.
Yo, these little monsters, they had assault rifles and all kind of shit.
Shotguns and freaking
I don't know
handguns.
whose house they broke into, but that person need to be arrested and shit.
That was probably their Christmas presents.
Yeah, right? Exactly, man.
You know?
Hey, you know what's so funny? Chuck, not Chuck, Kev, I want your take on this, but I'm gonna put this question out there to you guys too. My man wanted to come on and talk about this. And he said that if parents should either be held accountable if their children got caught with guns. So like say if there was a gun in the house, little Billy had a gun. Well, you know what's so funny, Mr. Bill Sr.? Your ass, or God forbid, I shot somebody's child, I should pay for the funeral, or there should be some kind of reprimand, some kind of punishment for me. Think about that, Chuck, and then I want Kevin to finish his statement, and then Chuck, and then Kevin, you can go ahead and comment on that too.
I completely agree with some of us, most of us, all of us. I don't know what it is, how many of us it is. When you see somebody who's the same color as you, looks like you, reminds you of you, it absolutely changes you.
Right.
My question is, because we are New York, right, and we are mixed with everything, and you're gonna see. I don't care if we made every cop in this neighborhood was black and every cop in this white neighborhood white. We're still gonna mix with people, right? It's gonna happen. How do we teach that? How do we teach, each other as humans to look at everybody? And I don't, know. And Chuck, I love, and I was paying attention to what you were calling those kids rugrats. Like, you didn't call them a disparaging name because they were white kids. You still made, jokes. They're just little rugrats because that's what they are, right?
Rugrats,
I don't care what color they are. They are. They are.
Yeah.
But
I call them little monsters,
and they are. Bill, they are. Right? Like look for those two. There's no bad phrase. Like there's no line you can't cross with those two. But how do we teach that? Is that teachable?
That in lies the problem, Kevin, and that's why I always say there isn't any equality, because the bottom line is we live in a city. Now, how about this? This is as real as I can get with it. We live in a city of melting pot. And it's always been called the melting pot, right? Where you have people from all walks of life. But the people that patrol and propose to protect and service are not all the melting pot that they protect and serve.
Yeah, but we are far more of a melting pot today than we were when any one of us came on. Bill, and I don't know about Chuck if you're second generation, but Bill and I are second generation, far more than when our fathers were on.
Yeah,
right. Like your father was an oddball.
Yeah,
right?
my father. Well, it wasn't my father; it was my uncle. That was, but like I said, see, just as I hear stories, and he came out the 3-2. just
What
as
did
I
my
hear
father?
story, and my cousin. No,
We're gonna have to talk offline after this. What years? My father was in the 3-2
Oh, really? Yeah.
in the 70s.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, now this would be a small world. Now look how long Bill and I have known each other.
And you never knew that.
Never figured
Yeah.
this part out. When we go off, when we're off air later, we'll talk for a
Yeah.
moment.
Exactly. And
Small world.
you know, like I said, these are the stories, Kevin, that we can all talk about. I mean, we all understand. There's a camaraderie. There's a code of ethics that we all have. We've all heard the term. You do what you got to do. We've all come from that cloth. We all go home safe. I'm straight co-signing. I put signatures on that. Listen, I also agree that if we had a community that was policed by all brothers and all sisters, and say it was a black community, and listen, they don't have a problem with me, because if I punch somebody in the mouth, the first thing is, why'd you punch him in the mouth? Well, you can't have it every way you want. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I didn't shoot his ass. Okay, I knocked his tooth out, but I ain't shoot his ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's gonna happen, because he's not gonna spit on me and it's just gonna be all right. But listen, I didn't shoot him. I gave him the business, right? If it was a community where all white people were working, white officers might have to handle their business too. And you know what's saying? Because let me tell you something. Nights after the club, the rowdy ones, Italians, Kev, you know what I'm saying? They fighting, Listen, the one thing, that's what I've learned, especially being in that promotional entertainment business, that the white guys will fight just as much as people of color, tear up the joint. But there was always, and this is the thing, there was always an excuse. Oh, he had too much to drink. Instead of, it was he who is the color, the person that act up. With that being said, we don't have people that have the mentality that they're here to protect and serve. Kevin, you know this, Chuck, you know this. There are people that honestly think they got on this job and they're doing God's work. There's no way in hell I ever thought I was doing God's work. I didn't think I was doing that. Do I think police work is a calling? I didn't know I was going to be a police officer. I always had aspirations one time, but it was a city test, more or less, than, I was going to do. I was born to be a cop. Hell no. No, hell no. I'm good at it. I did what I had to do, but I didn't come up growing up like, it's beautiful.
If you would have talked to me as a kid or my family, they wouldn't have said Kevin's going to become a cop, right? I'm with you, Bill. We took that test because we grew up in the city, and you took all the tests. You wanted a city job and a pension. Right. And but it became a calling.
Yes, I agree with you. 100%. Because I know both of you very well. And I know both of you, and Chuck, I know you were efficient. We joke, Joe and I joke about how you are with paperwork and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I know both of you are good with that. I laugh because not every friend you can work with. Like, like me and Eddie Warren, I always joke with him all the time. That's my longest living friend. Our parents were friends before we were born. And I joke with him. I say, yo, I love you to death. You're my best friend, but I don't know if I could work for you. You know what I'm saying? Right. You might get on my damn nerves. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't a paperwork dude. Kev, you know that. I listen, tactically, I'm second to none. Paperwork wise, oh shit. Yo, Bill, I'll type it.
You're second to all.
You're like, oh shit. Like, yo, you'd be like, yo, Bill, don't worry. Go see if the prisoner needs some food or something, man. Go ahead, man. You know what I'm saying? You go to court, you'd be like, yo, what kind of paperwork this dude got? You know what I'm saying? And you'd be like, yo, who typed my voucher? You'd be like, transparency, y'all, real talk. Sometimes you got to talk about yourself too, right? Listen, it's fun if you talk about everybody else, you got to talk about yourself too. But let me see, Vanetta said, if there were black, no restaurant would have been demonstrated. That sucks. White privilege again, exactly, just like they teach and hate. So, before we close out, we could talk. We could pick that up next week. A little bit more about, little Dungeons and Dragons, them little kids. Yo, let me ask you just real quick, get your take on it, close out with this. If a child under the age of 21 commits a crime, gun involved, and the parents know about it, or to find out that the gun was in the parents' house, should the parents have some kind of a responsibility, paying a funeral or some kind of punishment? Kevin?
So the parent, if there's a gun in my house, my kid's gun, my gun. If that gun is not locked properly, and my kid gets it because I think it doesn't need to be locked, it can sit.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about illegal.
Well, I can't be responsible if my kid has an illegal gun that I don't know of. I'm talking legal one. Yeah, I got responsibility.
Okay, all right.
But an illegal one, you can't. You know, a lot of these like kids, these mass shooter kids, these school shooting kids, are from guns they own in their home. I have an issue with.
I'm going to ask the person to come on maybe next week and to really talk about what his thing is. But I think the gist of it, and I don't want to speak for him, is that he's basically was trying to say how we were brought up. Like, you got into your child's business. You know, what are you doing in the room? Like, there's no closed doors. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, you remember, like
100%. But you know, but still, once we left that house, but like, I don't know how it was when I grew up. I left the house like, hey, you know, like if I was younger, I had to be back when it was dark. My parents didn't know where I was.
Absolutely, I understand.
Right?
I understand.
They did not know where I was. And when I got a little older, I didn't have a curfew. They didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Oh, you was a little badass little kid, huh? You didn't have no curfew?
You was a rug rat?
Yeah, you was a little rug rat?
Conversation for another day. But I will say this because you and I brought up a picture of where I used to hang out, but because you mentioned it before, I got 2 drinking in the park summonses as a kid. 2 drinking at 18.
Look at you. Kevin got thirst. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Both were like across the street from my house.
Oh, my God.
Queens Cop 102 wrote me twice.
I get that, man.
And I still got my city job.
And but you know what's so funny? That's a good thing, because you know what's so funny? When little Kevin, like when I got an open container summons, and Lord rest his soul, Chuck's brother-in-law, Frank, was with me, and the cop gave me a ticket. It was my 18th birthday, and I got a ticket on the train, and Frank was on the train, and the cop gave me a ticket, and he made me throw the liquor away. Lord rest his soul, Frank, yo, Chuck, you know Frank. He was like,
Yeah.
what? You gonna get a ticket and you gonna throw the liquor away too? Hell no, get that liquor. He went, man, it was still in the bag. He said, yo, man, take that liquor. You might as well drink your problems away. Shout out to Frank, big brother in the building.
Oh,
man. So, yo, but you know what's so funny, Kevin? As you still got the job, and I don't know if it was by hook or just because, but I would love to know what they asked you during the psychological about those 2 summonses, because I know I had to sit there and answer questions. Oh, you got open container? Do you have an alcohol problem? You like drinks? What's going on? What's going on? What's happening? I was like, come on, lady.
That's a story for off camera. But how I danced around that one, but it wasn't any hook or it wasn't any, you know, anybody helped me out. That was some
You had an
fancy
answer.
work.
You had an answer.
You'd be shocked, Chuck. Yeah. Always have an answer. So actually, now that you said that, Chuck, I never thought of that before. So you guys picked on me, but okay. So even before I was a cop, I learned that lesson.
I was taught to always have an answer too, but you be having an answer on top of an answer. Like you already have an answer for the question, the follow up and shit. So, yo, Chuck, what's your thing? What's your take on if a parent's responsibility? Like I said, I'm gonna see if I can get my man to come on the show so he can really elaborate what he's thinking. I'm just thinking that he's more or less trying to put the onus back on parents to be more dutiful in their children's life. I don't want to speak. That's the way I took it when he conversed it with me. But what's your take on anything of that aspect?
I mean, taking into consideration what Kevin said, yes. I mean, if it's my gun and I have it and I preserve, it's my gun and legally I have it, and for whatever reason, if I'm responsible, if I didn't lock it down to the point where I can't get to it, a kid can't get to it, and he gets to it, yeah, I find myself that just by the mere fact that he took a human life, I would feel responsible in some shape, form, or fashion to do something directly to that family. Right. The flip side of that is, yes, I remember us growing up. I mean, like Kevin said, he used to go out, right? He used to come home, whatever the case may be, and his parents didn't know where he was half the time. I don't care. My father and my mom used to be waiting at the door. I would come in. They said, "What are you doing? Where'd you come from?" And I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I got the Q&A. I got that Q&A before I went in. Come over here. Let me look at you. I used to get tapped by my dad every now and then, and just to make sure, all right, you all right? You good? Yeah, sure. All right. Take your ass in the room. Go take a shower. Get your ass in the bed.
We couldn't come home with talk about what our eyes glassy, talking about we got a cold. There was no such thing as allergies when we was a kid.
No. And God forbid, if I was out of sorts before I could even open my mouth, my father could tell and see that something wasn't right. Wow! So guess what? That foot in the ass kind of made me most of the man that I am now. So that being said, yes, I still feel, even if it's an illegal firearm for where I'm sitting, just morally speaking, if my son or my daughter took someone's life and my foot wasn't in his ass, I would feel compelled to at least do something. I would have to make some type of restitution to that family for the loss of their child if my kid is running around with an illegal firearm. And do I feel as if I'm somewhat responsible? Yeah, because I'm sorry, the thing that has been lost within, let's say, overall, like whereas it's say, remember back in the day, everyone who grew up in the neighborhood, you have more than one mother, you have more than one aunt, you have more than one father. Everybody dimed on you. Yo, did you just do that? Yo, what are you doing? You don't do that. Wasn't related to me, but I knew not to mess with Uncle Finster across the street or Miss O'Malley. It was just a common thing. As a village and as a community, everybody was your mother, everybody was your aunt. So you thought twice about doing something that was out of sorts. And I think overall, we've all gotten away from that. Because God forbid, if you go to somebody else's mother this day and age and say, look, between you and I saw your son outside doing X, Y, and Z. Or, what are you doing? Well, he ain't your child. Man, mind your business. I'll take care of my own kid. Don't be talking. Now you get into the argument, right? And now that's something that we don't even do anymore. And then forget it. With ACS and all these other agencies, you can't even discipline your child without possibly catching a case. So it's just we're taking a direction backwards instead of forwards. And that's why now you have kids, like even recently, right? Today, day before yesterday, right? Wasn't like some school bus, or I think it was a public bus went by, and a gun fell right out of the window in front of Eric Adams' office. Yeah. Would you have ever thought, I mean, you would have never thought in a million years, like something, that's why we've gotten so far away from getting a grasp on just raising our kids and having some control over it, that we have these guns that are proliferating the street. And most people have these guns are these young cats. They're 16, they're 17. I don't even think I even thought about having a gun at 6 and 17. Between you and I was busy trying to get laid. I ain't gonna lie, let's keep it real. Yeah. That's what I was trying to have six or seven condoms or something. You know what I'm saying? But I was firearms.
I'm throwing the flag.
That's it.
I'm throwing the flag, gentlemen. That's it. Caution flag. That's a foul. We've gone too far.
Real talk.
That's real talk. I try to get some ass. I would think about no damn gun. I'll leave that shit to Shaft and Jim Brown and all of them. And Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne. Burt Reynolds.
I will say something quick on the note of this. We're having a good laugh with this, but talking about these kids with these guns, and this is what's going on in the city right now, right? These are kids with guns, and it's testosterone, and you have a bump in a fight, dirty look, and then all of a sudden you pull out the gun, you shoot somebody, and the world has changed for both sides forever. The end of the story. Yeah. Those guns are in those kids' homes.
Well, this is what I was going to say in my closing.
All right. So, I was a little leaning towards the other side initially when you said, like, hey, the kid's got a legal gun, but I wasn't thinking that way, that, are you really checking what Junior is, right? So right now in the city of New York, the cops aren't doing it, right? And we can have that discussion, but it's clear they're not.
Exactly.
So, Mom, it's your responsibility, and Dad, it's your responsibility.
Whomever,
get in your kid's room, and once in a while, you got to check them out. And Junior
You
comes
gotta
home
toss
at
the
night.
bag, go and leave shit. Look for you. Gotta go through drawers.
Junior lift his shirt up when he walks in the door.
Exactly.
Take a peek. You know, is he going to get offended? So what?
Listen, if your son got at 16 years old, he got a sleeve and tattoos on his neck, I'm checking that little motherfucker with. I'm tossing that little. I'm going in his bed. I'm doing all kind of shit. And I'm throwing that little motherfucker against the wall. Yeah, come on.
Spread them.
You out here.
Going up in your nutsack. I'm touching everything.
Your pants hanging off your ass, and you got more tattoos than me. I'm like, yo, yeah, all right. And you got, come on, man, get against the wall. How about that?
So should we start handing out 250 reports to parents, and they should have to hand in a certain amount at the end of the month?
Listen, I'd rather parents do 250 reports than us.
That's right.
How about that?
100%. 100%.
Listen, that's what we talk about. Accountability goes back in the home, and that was the moral of my story. That really was the moral of my story. That was the end of that.
Look, it's a real good point. And the amount of parents that know, look, it's hard to say your kid's a thug, right? Like, and each one of us we have our goggles on with our kids. But you know your kid hangs out with bad kids. Toss your kid.
Listen,
a little bit more.
You know,
I like it.
Everybody out there listening, you know if your kid is bad. When you tell him to do something, he'd be like, yo, get out my face. I ain't doing shit, whatever. Yo, he's on the road to carrying a gun. That little bad little rascal. Yo, that talking back, spitting.
That's right.
Yo, all right. He's a gun carrier. You know what I'm saying? White, black, Spanish, or whoever he is. He's a potential gun carrier. Don't get it twisted.
I actually think this is a good campaign, right? To really push out there for parents to
like Bernie Mac would say. He said, "I'll punch a kid in the stomach in a minute."
I'll punch him right in his throat. Guy or girl, I don't care. I'll give you an Adam's apple. If you had one, I'll take it. If you didn't have one, I'll push one out. I'll hit you in the back of your neck and push it out through your throat. Yo. I wish you would talk to me. Yo, I ain't play that. Yo, listen, I ain't do all that. I can do it with my parents, and my child can do it with me, man. Listen, I ain't gonna do a whole lot of verbs and adjectives. Listen, it's a one-way conversation. Do as I say. Now, as you get older, you listen. Not to say that you got to stifle your children's voices, but let me hear you talk when it's talk time. When you get in punishment, there ain't no talking. You can't have a gun. There's nothing I can say. Listen, I man, everybody, y'all already know. Listen, we not having it. Parents, I'm gonna read Steph's comment, and then I'm gonna say something, and I'll let the fellas close out. But I want to say this. Steph said parents definitely need to make it their business to be all up in their kids' business. Absolutely, man. Our kids want to go to boarding school messing with me. They be like, yo, I want to get away from this dude. Yo, he's a monster. Parents, let me just say this. I'm going to go first in my PSA. Check your kids. Maybe you might save another child's life, or you might save an adult. Your child might be involved in something that you really don't know. And maybe sometimes just get off the couch, get off your ass. Stop trying to be your child's friend. You stop worrying about why you're not Facebook friends. My child has me blocked. Don't worry about being blocked. Why don't you just go in his room? Don't worry about that. Open up the doors. There was no closed doors in my house when I was growing up. The only time that door closed is when I went to sleep and they closed it. They closed it. You know what I'm saying?
No, the door is closed because you're punished and sent to that room, and they close the door on you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I say all that to say, parents, check your kids. Do your due diligence. Maybe you may save a life. And maybe you may save your own child's life too, because the bottom line is maybe they're involved in something that you don't know. Ask them questions. Maybe we need to go back to the old school, sitting down, having dinner with our children, having some kind of dialogue. The one thing you got to give Kevin and Chuck, myself, You know, we're all parents. We're very, immersed in our children's lives. As you can see during the show, Kevin's children are still behind him, walking back and forth. You know, but the bottom line is he knows where his children are. Remember that commercial that used to say, "It's 10 o'clock." It was that man with the creepy voice. Do you know where your children are? I'd be like, oh shit.
That still comes on.
Yeah. Or 12 o'clock. So yeah, that's my PSA for everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host Kevin Branzetti and my co-host, special guest Chuck Richards. Listen, Kevin, you can go, and then Chuck, and then we'll say goodnight.
Well, I got to say, Bill, I think it's one of the most insightful things you might have thrown out here since we started doing this, or since I started doing it with you.
There's been more. You just didn't catch it.
I'm going with the most insightful. Again, pay attention to my words, my friend. I didn't say the only insightful. I said most.
I've been playing with you.
You know, you could put it short and sweet. You know, police your kids, or the police will police them. And you don't want to be in that world. We've learned we don't want that world. So if you want the responsibility, you want less policing of your kids, you got to police them yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you just checked your kid once in a while when they came in, we're dead serious about this. It's going to make them think twice. Right? You might not have the thug kid. You might have the sucker in the group who the thug gives the gun to. And you got to hold this for tonight, Billy. Your job. You're taking this home. Yeah. So Billy gets searched a couple of times when he walks in the door. He starts telling his friends, I can't do that. My pop checks me checks me. That's done. Right? I think it's genius, actually. Billy.
Awesome. Chuck?
Brothers, you two have said it all, man. I don't have anything else to add. You know, the bottom line is that I think we have to get back into the overall mindset of being a community as opposed to being separate islands. Because, like I said, I used to have several aunts on the block. I had several mothers on the block. You know, and when my mother was informed that I was doing something, it was never looked at as if, well, she was less than a good parent because I was out doing something. I'm just letting you know your son was running with these cats that he shouldn't be running with. Or I saw him standing off the corner with this dude he shouldn't have been with. Or he was cursing and pissing in the middle of the street or something like that, you know. And it wasn't an affront to my parents. It was a matter of checks and balances. And I have to say that I feel very honored to say that I had all those mothers, and I felt good knowing I had all those fathers and aunts and uncles and the little lady that looked out the window who says, you know, you ain't supposed to be doing that. I'm gonna tell your mother. You know, it was just one of those things. And I think we need to get back to that as a community and not looking at it as it being demoralizing or it being something where, in fact, as a community, we find a front to it. You know what I mean? And I think if we're able to do that and at least come to some commonality, understanding that we're doing this because we want to protect one another. You want, like you said, you want to protect somebody else. You may save a life. You might just save some other kid's life. You may save your own kid's life because either he gets incarcerated or someone dies subsequent to it, you know. But like I said, you guys covered it all, man. As always, man, it's a pleasure being out here and being here with you guys, man.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Like I said before, we all appreciate you chiming in, taking the time out to listen to us. It's such an honor that you would let us come into your homes or your cyber world and listen to what we have to say. The three of us have to say. I'm sure I can speak for the both of them that it's a privilege, definitely a privilege for you to rock with Real Talk Chronicles and them being a part of it. So I thank them. If I haven't said it enough, I'm saying it now. Listen, if you have content that you want us to converse about, send it to us, please. You know, these guys know I'm texting, they're texting me. We're sharing information all the time, just about issues. You know, not so much if it's a black and white issue. A lot of times it turns out to be maybe, you know, a white officer hitting a black person, but it's still an officer in the nutshell. Yes, we can talk about the white officer too. You know, let's not just spare the elephant in the room. But the bottom line is, I had a conversation last night. Like I said, the bottom line is, friend known me for 100 years. They were still giving me the business, and I told her that I might bring her on the show. She has a lot of notoriety in the community and in the industry too, so she might come on the show because she was just to fund the police, the police, that police, and she's like, after a while, it was just a point of, I don't know if she was trying to goat me or get under my skin, but I just felt like there wasn't any conversation now. It's just your theory, and you think it's right. You understand what I'm saying? Just to be in Harlem and be amongst people, not maybe even though I was around people our age, but who knows who had a gun in the car, or what people walk past us had a gun. Because right now there isn't any fear out here to not carry a gun. And I personally do not feel comfortable living in a world like that everybody under their skin, under their clothes, might have a firearm. You know what I'm saying? People were afraid when we were officers to carry a knife because people were going to jail for a 4-inch knife. Right now, people not even going to jail. Think about some of the arrests that Kevin, you and I have made, and maybe you too, Chuck. If they took away weed, our numbers are plummet. You know what I'm saying? We might be almost 300 arrests away. Taken away because in the course, and I'm talking about not in just that's all we did. But I'm talking about all the arrests that we've been affiliated with, or actually done, or something like that, or been acting up. He passed it, this one, and passed that one. I mean, how many officers have arrested people for nonsense like that? Passing of a joint. Now you can walk down the street and the person can blow some smoke in your face. Crazy. So is the world getting worse? Or is it getting better? That's the discussion we'll have next Wednesday. This is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. We'll talk to you later, man. Talk to y'all. Peace.
Good night, everybody.